What's up, everyone? Welcome. It's Wednesday night Mythic Conversations. It's the first Mythic Conversations since LegionsCon 2025 and Mythic Week 2025. So we are here to hopefully all of you who are at home who are kind of going over that LegionsCon 2025 hangover. Hopefully we're going to bring you back there. We're going to give you a little bit of the fun that we experienced this weekend as we talk about the wave reveals, the surprises, everything that went down this weekend. And for what I believe is the third year in a row, joining me on my show to recap everything is my friend, Big Dub.
Hello. It is third year. Unfortunately, I'm not in your house.
Yes.
In your new house.
In my new house, yes. Still have to get you over here to help me do my toy tour.
I was not with you, but I was making plans with the rest of your family for a visit over the weekend.
Good. Yeah, you got that happen. You got to spend some quality time with Sarah and the kids this week, and that was one of my highlights. I'm sure we'll talk about our highlights, but one of my highlights of this weekend was the fact that my family played more of a role on the Four Horsemen side. You know, this is the first year that we didn't have what was essentially a Legion shop table, and they used to run that table because I couldn't be behind there the entire show. But this year, because we didn't have that table, they still wanted to be involved. So they went in the main room, and they were my wife and daughter were checking people out at the Armory for a good portion of Saturday. Yeah. And Jacob was working security, making sure people weren't sneaking back into the Four Horsemen figure fair. So it was nice to have them be involved in that way.
I learned that I'm not the hardest to get to know and peg after I'd met your daughter all of 12 hours, more properly met her. I'd met her before, but more properly. And then I was in line at the Armory, and I see her look over and go, "Oh, here comes trouble." Well, all right. Yep, you figured it out.
Yeah. So a lot that we can talk about. I definitely want to just kind of get into the wave reveals and stuff, but that's Friday. That's G-Con. Thursday, one thing I'll point out is I came into New Jersey on Monday to get ready for the week. And I've said this before that Monday and Tuesday are nice, slower days. I get to, sit down with Eric and do a lot of, next year planning. But what blew me away was when I got to the hotel, there were already people there. So, literally there are people that are making a full week Monday to Monday out of this at this point.
When I saw the post with you guys at the pub Monday night, I was like, okay, it's not acceptable. Like I've got to, and my plan was, as we talked about, I think on the show last year, was to come up earlier. In fact, maybe even in the weekend. But so my daughter was going to come with us, and up until the middle of September, that was the plan. Well, I can't, it's just the middle of the school year for her. Sure. Like I can't just pull her out of school for 10 days.
For sure.
And so we planned to do Wednesday, and then because of a class that she's in, she had a thing she had to do for a grade. She could have come. So I just kept my plans the way they were coming up on Wednesday, but I was in distress when I saw that. I wanted to join. I don't get FOMO about toys anymore, but I sure do get FOMO about people.
Yeah. And we heard that from a lot of people where they were like, oh, I wish I was here a day earlier, 2 days earlier to be a part of that. So it was a good group, and it was nice to have a little quieter time with some people on those early days. But really where Legions or Mythic Week starts really kicking off is Thursday, Intern for a day. You were able to come to Intern for a day again this year. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on it. We've talked about it in the past. I know one of the things that I thought was certainly different this year than last year is it was a much more intimate, experience this year, like it used to be. But a notable thing is this is the last year that we're going to be doing Intern in that space.
Yeah. Yeah. I will correct you, and it's because you're streaming Wednesday night. But over the last few years, the Wednesday arrivals have grown a lot. So both fire pits,
sure.
like when you and Eric started, both fire pits were completely full, standing room only. Wow. And the lobby was full. Yeah. Now, over the course of several hours, as more people arrive and, chit chat. Yeah. But it looked like what used to be Friday morning getting ready for G-Con Wednesday night. So that's
crazy.
That music starts. That's what starts it. But yeah, I think one of the things that I appreciated at Intern that was brand new also was there were two more sessions, so to speak, because you elongated some of the sessions, which made the group smaller. Yep. So even though there were less people there also, but like your group would only be like 8 or 10 people, if maybe even less than that. So especially the really intimate ones like Cameron and Sherry, where you're in a pretty tight space where some years it's like, you can't even get in there because there's too many people. You could all get in. There's room for everybody to ask questions, participate. And so it did. It was a much more intimate feeling to make sure that the Walrus would be on the screen. Yes.
Well, speaking of those additional sessions, I actually had the honor of giving a session this year. I don't typically do that. I typically play traffic cop and run around and make sure everything's going on correctly in switching over. But we added a little more organization this year in the way we grouped people, in the way we had the sessions, like who was going to be where. That was much more deliberate than we had in the past. So much so that I almost kicked myself for like, how did I not do this sooner? But it freed me up to give a session because Jim in the past has given a tour of like the prop shop that we share space with, but they've got some projects they're working on upstairs that it just wasn't feasible for us to take people around their shop this year. So instead we said, well, let's do something down here instead. And George and actually Malice jumped in. They showed stuff like the 3D printers and talked through that. But what I did for those that weren't there was I kind of gave a history lesson on Four Horsemen Studios as told through very specific like pieces that were on display in the studio. I picked out certain prototypes and figures and so forth to just point them out and tell that story. So I'm a big fan of, archival type stuff and historical type stuff. So that proved to be a lot of fun. And it actually really got me excited for the new building and setting some of these, pieces up in that building, really curating that display to do something similar in the future.
Yeah, I really appreciated that because it's, I'm not a bashful person, but a lot of folks are uncomfortable asking questions. And so you can see anytime you're there, you see people looking at a thing and you could tell they maybe would like to know, what am I looking at? And in fact, I think that the video that was up this past Sunday where we're there and I'm going around and I'm trying to do it from the cases, from my knowledge. And then I got to what I know now, and I remember that you've told me before, is that white first Legions figure. But because it's sitting there with like prototypes of the most recent, like the about to come out wave, I'm like, what am I looking at there? Like I even like hesitated in the video. And so to have someone actually talk about some of these things, and as many times as you and I have spoken, I learned a lot, especially in that, that kind of entryway, the foyer with the figures that were never made, the Gothotropolis and some of that stuff. That was really cool. I hope I spent some time with Eric Treadaway, thanking him for that as well. And he mentioned that, there's a lot of thought about, can they make more of that available publicly and that kind of thing because of how important it is to people to learn. And you guys have done so many recent documentary and special things that I know I, as a fan, would love to see at least some of that work its way into something that everybody can see.
For those that weren't at the show, we've got Jordan's on here, Wholesome Warlock, saying Jeremy gave an excellent speech on his tour. I'll try to get it uploaded for tomorrow. So it looks like Jordan actually recorded that session as I did my little tour, and he's going to upload it, which is very
great.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So super exciting Thursday. I know when I got to the hotel Thursday night, after Intern, I mean, it was insane the amount of people that were there. Like it was, I mean, it felt like the Friday, Saturday night, there were so many people there. It was buzzing in that place. So much energy. Everyone was really keyed up on Thursday night, leading right into G-Con. Unless you have anything else that you wanted to bring up, I'd love to just start digging right into these reveals.
I think I'm good. Yep.
So one of the things that I love to do, and we spend a lot of time on, is really thinking about the presentation order. I've said before that I go through, even though I don't have a script, I kind of run through very, very loosely the presentation in my head and how all the characters get strung together. This particular wave, Dawns of Discovery, it's less narrative driven than Horror of Einsamal, but there's definitely a narrative throughput through these particular characters. So knowing how left of center we were going to get with this wave, with some of the designs, I loved starting off with a familiar character type and design to almost give people a false sense of, oh, this is going to be more of the same, more of the stuff we're used to. This is just the realm of mythos, on the high seas. I wanted to set that false sense of security, I guess, early on. And we started with General Delfina of Etheros.
It definitely. So when it popped up, it made sense, but I wouldn't have never guessed it. When you and Joe were speaking about how there'd be, everybody's going to like at least something in this wave. My mind said, okay, it's going to be relatively diverse then, because there certainly are people that only collect one or two types of things in the fandom. But then also just understanding there has to be some anchor characters in a way. There has to be some familiarity, because we're going, we all understand we're moving to a new part of the story, but we need something to bridge us, right? You always have to have something, a backdoor spinoff of a TV show doesn't have anyone you don't know. It has to have someone that you have familiarity with.
Yep.
But then also, how many times have you been asked, when are we going to get an updated 2.0 Buck? When are we going to get some updated female parts? Some of those all kind of roll in to make it make perfect sense. A character we're familiar with, that as we have learned on Mythic Conversations, this is later in her life, which means she's a Mythic Legions figure, not a Legacies figure.
Correct.
This is a different point in time in her story.
Yep.
So it's new. I loved it. And I know, I think there was a really good reaction right away, but a surprise reaction. Yeah,
for sure. And it's, when we were planning out this wave, we knew right out of the gate we wanted to do two previously announced characters. We wanted to do two new versions of two different characters.
Yeah.
And we talked about a number of characters. Vitus, pretty early on, Vitus got the call. We knew pretty quickly. We also knew we wanted to do a female. And we looked at a couple different females, and we didn't want it to be one of the major ones, one of the heaviest hitters. Dub, can you still hear me? It looks like
I can hear you, but you're frozen.
Okay.
But I can't hear
good.
You.
So my video's frozen, but you can still hear me.
It looks to be the same on YouTube. Yeah. Yes, I can still hear you. I don't know. On the video, it looks the same on my phone.
Well, it looks like nothing's moving, but if you can at least hear me, I guess I will keep talking. I'm wondering now if...
Have you advanced the picture? We're still in the front pose.
Yeah, I just tried to advance the picture, and it's not actually moving.
Might be a little bit stuck.
And I'm not seeing any comments come up here, so I'm wondering if YouTube is having some problems or what.
I can see myself waving at YouTube. Yeah, I think you are all frozen, but I am moving on YouTube.
Okay, so I'm the one that's frozen. So you know what?
I could do some entertaining for a moment.
Yeah, why don't you do some entertaining? I'm going to try to get myself unfrozen here.
Yes.
Okay.
So, everybody, one of the things that I would mention while Jeremy is working on that is I think LegionsCon has become a con that is one that people should save for, and not necessarily to spend, but save to stay as long as you can. We talked about arriving early, leaving later. I put a post up in the Facebook group earlier. Yeah, see Rufus, he wants to as well come. I met people from 5 continents, I think 4 continents I know, and there was at least someone there from South America, and I think I met them well. But I met and spoke to a person from Japan, from Europe, from Australia, and from North America. Multiple people have said they were there from South America. I do not know if we had someone there from Africa. I think someone mentioned someone from Egypt might have been there. That is remarkable. I'm not even sure that you get that at a major Comic-Con type event every year. And one of the things that I always struggle with is I don't want to go to sleep because I want to stay up and spend time with everyone. So I looked at my sleep tracker and it was quite poor. So if you have the ability to save some extra for an extra hotel room or to whatever you need to do, right? Take more time off work. I think it's worth it because I feel so restored, not physically, but mentally and emotionally whenever I get back from this and as it's happening. In fact, somebody did come through who maybe you're in the live stream right now. And Sunday morning and said, "How are you feeling?" And I'm like, I'm pretty tired. And they said, "Yeah, I feel physically restored and rejuvenated." And they apparently weren't staying up till the 2 a.m. Doing the My Wife Is Going to Kill Me late night show and all the antics that happened up there. Now it's just me. Here is just me. Are we still on YouTube? I don't know. Let me look on the chat. Jordan, are we still on? It looks like we are. So now Dub is hosting Mythic Conversations, and I think on the 4 Horsemen stream by myself. How about that? Let me make myself not big screen so I can see if I get a message. Good. Chris, yeah. So good for you. And Natalie has brought me a smoothie. That is a wonderful thing. So that's, it's very easy to get sucked into the spending on the stuff, and there's awesome stuff. But I'd also encourage you to what I did. I have to budget like everyone else. What I did this year is I budgeted to make sure we could be in the hotel. I rented a car for the first time. I took yesterday off, an extra day off to have more time to recover. Jeremy's back. There he is. We've returned.
That was interesting. Go ahead. Finish what your thought was.
Well, just encouraging to think about that too. Think about a little more time to get yourself into the host hotel or any of those things. All of that is it's worth more than whatever money you could put into it. I can promise you that. Being around this community and absorbed into the con for as long as possible. I just kind of circled back to that.
So where we were was talking about this figure here. I mentioned that, we had a few different characters we were talking about, but we eventually landed on Delfina. Eric had wanted to do, as you said, an update on the 2.0 Knight body to give it that Valiant Knight style update. The Templars are always popular. For us, Knights are always popular. But the fact that Delfina had just had a cameo appearance in Horror of Einsamal in chapter 1 of that story really kind of helped her get the lock on this spot, because we liked that, soft connection between the two stories. And then as soon as Eric started working on it, it's funny, she was one of the last ones we decided to include, and I think she was the first one he actually finished. He got really excited for the idea of updating that body, and he just dove right in.
And a lot of her kind of cohorts have also gotten this treatment
No.
recently. So that the order has gotten a lot of new figures, fittingly enough. I do think that there's, I thought we might see a Claude counterpart joining as well, but because we all know that's coming down the road at some point, as revealed last year. But I think this figure's great, and I think especially the pieces are going to be very much appreciated by a lot of folks going forward. We haven't talked. I guess you and Joe will do a thing looking at the parts and pieces in an upcoming episode at some point, because I know there'll be a lot of questions around what does this look like under the soft goods, what's the interchangeability and so forth.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's someone in the comments asking if we're going to see pop and swaps. No, that's not dubbing myself. No. We're going to talk through them. We're going to give some impressions, but when Joe's on is when we'll do the pop and swaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was excited to put this figure in. As I said, I knew it was going to get people like feeling comfortable with this right from the get-go. But beyond that, it is such a great update of that base figure. With the new heads, with the new helmet and everything, the full loadout here, everything about this figure, it felt like just a great update. And as I said in the live stream, it's not a Legacies, but it absolutely could fit that bill if that's what you want. She's not so dramatically changed that this can't fit the bill as a Legacies version of Delfina of Etheros.
Or if you have the old one, I'm sure you could figure out a way to get that head on this, everything else here.
Absolutely.
Straight away. Yeah.
I mean, this is, in my opinion, a much crisper, nicer sculpture than the last one. One thing that it's funny too is it's such a small little thing, but I love it, is that new scabbard that she's got there. When
Eric fits flush.
When Eric sculpted the one for Otho, the fact that it has that little cutout so the sword really fits in, I liked that so much. And the other sword, it just doesn't do that. So getting a new scabbard that has that little cutout in it was a small but kind of important little update.
Yeah, and I one of the things that I like, it was when you announced the dates for the future LegionsCons, which I'm sure we'll get to eventually, thinking about the show itself approaching 10 years.
Yeah.
This is a good example when you look at your collection, and you've obviously seen my collection. It's like the line itself is getting to where not just some of the things we've talked about in the past, where maybe a Legion builder is now being replaced by a little bit better version of that, but now main characters, you go, okay, do I really need, I'm a person that gets it all. Maybe I don't need several versions of this character, just like I didn't need several versions of fill in the blank property. Sure. I don't need the 13-year-old Toy Biz one anymore because there's a much better one. It's awesome to see that in this. Like, okay, this could be the Delfina, and this is where she is currently in the story, where we're at together, what we're learning as they are learning as well, which I do think in the narrative of this, like you talked about, is exciting that the characters are on the same journey as we are.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that aspect of this. I think it's super strong. Any other thoughts on Delfina? I mean, again, we're not going to go through the bios and everything here on the show. I mean, she's a $42 standard figure. All the prices I'll give tonight are the pre-order discounts. A standard figure is $55. So, when this is offered down the road, it'll be that price. But for right now at Store Horseman, she's the $42 price point. Any other thoughts on this before we move on?
Just if it's one you're interested in, as we've seen with the recent Templars, they start to go away pretty quickly once they're released.
Yep.
So don't wait if the thing you want. I mean, they've been very popular.
I mean, so I can tell you right now, we are sold out of Sir Enoch's. Like we brought our final stock of Enoch to LegionsCon and we sold out, which, a lot of people will say, well, why didn't you order more Enochs? He was the most popular seller in the All-Star 6 wave. So already, and that was not an under-ordered wave. That was a very, well-ordered wave. So his most popular figure, which means there's a lot out there. Then we've got we ordered a fair number of extras to sell at shows, but he's been so popular that we literally are now at the point that he is sold out. So it really does show that some of these figures that once they're in hand, people are just blown away by and they want more because of the extra heads or the building opportunities. They're not going to be around forever. It's going to be these are going to be some that go quickly.
Yep.
So everyone that wants to see what's underneath it, the only photos I have tonight are the same photos that we shared last week. Again, we've got just under 2 months for this pre-order. Once the dust settles and Joe and I are able to do a pop and swap show, we will show what is underneath those soft goods so you can see what the armor looks like, and we'll do some popping and swapping. So moving on from Delfina, I loved this 1-2 punch because we go from a character that's so familiar to a character that is so like off the wall. This was the figure, Dub, that I was the most worried about. This was the one that I really was worried that some people were just going to say, yeah, that's a step too far. But he has proven thus so far to be one of the most popular figures in the wave. He got a great pop at the show. Yep. You know, the social commentary on him so far has been wonderful and sales have been wonderful. You know, this is one, taking this kind of risk was, you know, it certainly paid off. And, you know, obviously there are going to be, you know, some people that like certain character types that the anthropomorphic characters may not be for them, that this may not fit their collection. But I was really excited that Eric was able to, you know, do something like this. And he has been a fan favorite. He's certainly the favorite of my daughter. She said that she doesn't have a Legions figure, and she has said that this is going to be her first.
Yeah, you know, it's so many, including myself, were not around at the very beginning of this line, but I'm sure at the beginning and the first time you look, there are people who are like, goblins are silly or dwarves are silly. I don't want that. I just want the knights or the barbarians or whatever. Of course. I mean, that's just what collecting is. You collect the things you like. But when you walk around any customizing area, 3D print area, anybody that has the wares for sale, anthropomorphic things are what you see the most of. It's just what you see the most of. There's the most creatures. And I think that's because most of us grew up with something between Motu or Ninja Turtles or Star Wars or something that was like, oh, now there's this talking thing. Plus, we all want our pets to stand up and talk to us. Like it's all human nature to me. I was surprised, but not surprised, right? I'm like, oh, that kind of anthropomorphic.
Yes.
That's cool. And then when you, which you're going to get to, the reveal of the back got a second reaction in the room of how, it's just beautiful. That's an incredible paint job.
It's gorgeous. And Michael Cooper's in the chat here saying, is the whole back piece removable? Interestingly, the way that it actually works is, let me go back here. This whole neck area is connected to kind of the fins, and it's a separate piece completely. It's like a separate neck piece that slides on. So you can, because the base body here is the same body that we have with a couple Cosmic Legions figures.
The little guy, right?
Yeah, Akka and Akcha, the Veblians. But it's got that new neck piece with the gills. Those necklaces are not removable necklaces. They're part of the sculpture, but that slides on to bulk it out and to give the kind of the fins in the back.
Yeah.
So it's not pegged into the back. It's literally part of the neck. It completely slides over. It's a very different kind of build than we've seen previously.
Yeah, that's he also makes you think about what people are going to do with those pieces.
Yeah,
it's remarkable. Is this I don't remember who painted this one?
This one is Cameron. Cameron painted the Manta.
When I was with Cameron during Intern, I asked him, when is the last time or a figure in this line that really challenged you painting? Where you know, you weren't sure you could deliver what you needed to deliver. And he said, ask me again after Friday. And I think he also painted our large friend that we're coming to eventually. And so I'm not sure which one that would be, but he did. One. Is that one? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because he told me that you asked him that.
Yeah.
And he said, and he literally said that exactly to me. And it was about Bulwark, the crab.
That's cool. I didn't get a chance. I spent a lot of time at Cameron this weekend, but we were role playing, so we didn't. I didn't get a chance to follow up with him. But that's some really good. I really appreciated multiple times. All I'm assuming there's only 3 people that painted on this wave. All 3 of them you called out and referenced. Eric and Sherry and Cameron. I don't know. I'm not sure if anyone else painted on this, but across the wave. Nope. I like that. I like hearing, because we know these people and we know their styles and the things that they do. And so it's a cool thing to kind of hear that represented, and then connecting it back to a previous thing that happened in the weekend is fun.
Yeah, for sure. We do have a question. Someone asking, will the skull face from Sir Elijah fit on Delfina? It will not, but you really don't need it to, since you've got the chainmail head that comes with Elijah as well. It fits that one, but that is a 1.0 body, 1.0 head, so they're not going to fit on this 2.0 body. But no, you never know. We might get some skull faces, 2.0 skull faces for that down the road.
I don't think that'll be the only 2.0 faceplate we ever see.
For sure. Not for sure. I think I mentioned this during the live stream, but one of the things I loved about this character is because we did the full lineup. Like, that's one of the ways that we start a wave is Eric does some really rough renders of characters. And, in some cases, he just pops existing heads onto that figure. Like in the Horror of Einsamal wave, the Fox figure, it started with the Thistlethorn head on it just for placeholder purposes, which was an easy transition down the road when we decided to just also include the Thistlethorn head. Other cases, we don't have anything similar like with the Manta Ray, so he just roughs it out very quickly so we can see what the lineup looks like. And we did that, and we knew who our hero characters and our villain characters were going to be. And I started assigning roles on the ship to the members of the Fishers Guild. So originally, this guy was going to be essentially like the head of all the crew. And I forget what the exact name was, but it wasn't the captain, but he was in charge of the crew and he had a position of authority. And, that was the one. This was the one bio that Eric said, yeah, that's not how I picture him. And he was very much inspired by like old Japanese fishermen for this character. He wanted him to be a master fisher. He's got, the woven armor and the basket and the reeds on his arms and legs. So reimagining this character, less like an authority figure because of their position and more as a very well-respected, dare I say, almost like Mr. Miyagi style character that people defer to because of their wisdom and experience. That really shaped the persona of the character. And to me, he really kind of came to life once we got that.
Is he, let me get my lore right. They're leaving. He's on the boat with the group that is now going back out. He was not on the original boat that got hit by the wave and all of that.
So, and I haven't said this yet, but the original boat that Koi was on, which is the Golden Gill, that was crewed by a group of Amur. So Amur is actually a location on the map, but an Amurian is Koi's race. So those literally like fish-like characters, those are Amurians. So Koi was on a ship, and we're going to look at Koi later. Koi was on a ship with others of his kind. The helmeted version that comes with Koi was actually meant to be more of a builder type character, other members of the ship beyond Koi. So he was on a crew with them, and the thought was that they discovered Mythos, in those ship logs. If you read those ship log teasers leading up to the wave, that's kind of first contact. Once the Golden Gill travels back to Amur, they have a bit of a celebrity status to them. So a number of them leave the crew to go capitalize on that status. Koi, however, he's only known a life on the seas, so he signs up with a new crew. He signs up with the Ocean's Lure, and those are the characters that we see. I mean, Koi ends up going back to New Mythos, back to Eaglesport, and it's there where, along with Mobu, Siren, and Bulwark, that they're part of that crew on the Ocean's Lure. That's what Delfina and Vitus will join as they head away from New Mythos to other unknown ports across the sea, to what we refer to as the old continents.
So as I was speaking with the various people, making my predictions for what was going to come that we inevitably will talk about. One of my points of uncertainty and logic was, if there are aquatic beings that already exist in the mythos we know, we've not seen them. That's not a style of thing we've seen. Yep. But in this case, obviously there is, because this character was there already, and it is older and has been some things. We just haven't encountered them for obvious reasons, but we have not encountered them in the story. But there are more aquatic based. It's not just Jagualians and Thistleborn, and then named bears and named horses and moose. There could be whatever.
So there's races that were in the mythos we know that we haven't seen yet. That is for sure. Yeah. But there are other races and species and so forth that lived outside of the mythos we know that we have not met yet, nor do the characters and the heroes that we know. They're unaware of them as well. A lot of the characters that we meet in this story fall into that category.
Yeah, when we get to the I can't remember his name, the guy with the purple robe. I think he was the one that Eric mentioned. And here we will see that there are people that are aware of both.
Yeah.
But that can somehow travel in between. And immediately I said to myself, I'm writing a story that's going to be Tales of the Mos Eisley Cantina style about that. That immediately drew my interest. This little side thing about those people. What are they up to? Which I'm sure you're going to get to in the regular lore too, of course.
We will. And we've dropped a few. I mean, Zende's bio references the fact that he came from beyond the shores of Mythos. So we had dropped that little in the Poxus wave. Yeah. In Scapular's bio, or in Umbra, the unicorn as well, we talk about him spending, a kingly fortune to get the unicorn from beyond the shores of Mythos. Unicorns are a creature that were thought to be like a myth in the mythos we know, and then Scapular turns up with one. He got it from outside of Mythos. Scapular, as we get deeper into the story, we're going to find out more about why these two segments of this world have been separated, what has kept them apart for all these years. But there are characters that knew about the two, like they could travel between them and exploit them. And Scapular is certainly one of the characters that took advantage of that knowledge for his own benefit.
That for me personally is very exciting, because, and I know you like me, you like a lot of the surrounding texts of the stories that we enjoy. And most stories have a great war, and we've had a great war here, but I find so much fascination in the rest of or the people that just really don't care that there's a great war. Yeah. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't impact my life. So that's cool. And I like this guy being the sage, lived a life, and we've never encountered him, and he probably doesn't care too much about what they're going to do inland of Mythos, but he's gonna, I think that's good. It really builds out, and then you see it. You see so much story in the way he's designed, and he does look like an old man, even though he's a Ray. He still looks like an old man.
I love. The parts of the Ray. He almost looks like he's got like a mustache kind of thing going, just because of the way it looks. One thing we didn't talk too much about in the reveal special, and then we can move on. This guy's got all these all these trinkets that hang on his belt. I love, all those hooks on his belt that you can hang these pieces, as opposed to them all being part of the sculpture from the beginning. They're all, separate. But that antique glass fishing float, I don't know how the factory is going to produce that, but right now the net actually comes apart. The actual netting is two separate pieces that clip together, which means the little like ball inside is a separate piece completely. From our perspective, it made it so much easier to paint. It would do the same thing for the factory. So that's our goal. I don't know if that's, there are times when stuff gets sent to the factory, they do their own engineering to ensure that it can be actually mass produced. But as of right now, that's our hope, that you'll be able to, essentially take the glass out of that little ball. Of course, it's not really glass, but you get what I'm saying.
That's cool. This wave has a lot of accoutrement that help fill out a world, fill out a dio, whatever the case may be. I
mean, similar to Rising Suns. Rising Suns had a lot of little belt trinkets and stuff like that. That it's funny. That's one of the things that when Eric and I are using existing parts to build figures, a lot of those little things like necklaces and belts and bracelets and so forth, they're invaluable to dressing characters to make them look differently. So Eric's been spending a lot of time adding those types of pieces into the library that allow us to build this stuff out.
The days of one belt or two belts in an X can now be beyond, although it still looks good sometimes.
So moving on, another somewhat, I would suggest, safe character in the story. The character, the figure in the wave that's got probably the fewest new parts on him, but important new parts with that, that new head, and actually the hair piece is new on this one, a new bird body, a new cutlass. There's definitely some new pieces, but this is a lot of familiar as well. This was one of the final figures that got done. I can tell you there was a point that he almost didn't make it into the line. He almost didn't make it into the wave. And the decision to put him in was, we didn't know where else we would release him. We were like, with everything else we have planned, there's no obvious place to drop this figure. So he made his way in, thankfully so, because for some people, he seems to be one of their favorites, one of their hits.
Yeah, he's first of all, the soft goods are just so good.
Yeah.
On this. I don't know how many different pieces that is, but
a lot. So he's got the waist, like the loin piece there. He's got the tunic is the same actual tunic as we just saw on the scaphoid figure from LegionsCon. Then he's got that long cape. So, really 3 layers of pieces swaddled over him.
Which it gives you just significant flexibility and how you, plus what we know to be underneath, to how you're gonna display this. And hearing Eric talk about the decision on the bird and having that is always interesting. But yeah, it's a good safe character, and also fits with some of the recent other characters in this mold. Like it feels like it's part of it. A different shade of purple.
Joe pointing out the tunic is a different shade of purple than scaphoid. This figure has a very Three Kings of, the Bible story type feel to it. Definitely fits that mold. And, story-wise, a character that's not from a faction that we've identified at this point yet. He's a bit of a wild card here. Oh, Joe's chiming in again saying, green fabric arms and legs are the same color from last year's armory. So people that have been wanting those green
pieces, are very hard to get also.
Yeah. So same exact colors from last year's armory.
He feels very in our classical world history, like the Persians, the way the Persians kind of fit in a lot of those stories, where it could be this unknown person that you're having to make a deal with or try to purchase safe passage from, but then the other appearance being like the person that would be his bodyguard defending him.
So we're going to look at the Imp next. And, the Imp ended up becoming part of the Seafarers League with, essentially kind of the pirate crew. But at one point, the Imp was going to be a companion character to this guy here, to Eban Prosperas. Obviously, you can do whatever you want in your own collection. I think that like the golds on the Imp and the golds on this character are going to work really well together. That together they would make a stunning pair because they both have that kind of like Middle Eastern flavor to their armor and to their look.
Yeah, that's I think really wise from the sculpt design and also the paint that your brain tells you, okay, this clearly is from elsewhere.
Yeah.
Than a lot of what we've become familiar with. I like that. I know it's intentional when you spend time with the painters, they talk about some of those things and then whatever the style guides that Eric gives, those kinds of things. I find that interesting how the brain works and processes that as, oh, he's from this world clearly, but he's from a part of this world I don't know much about.
Yeah.
Visually, I can tell that.
And that's what's supposed to be. This is a character where, the name Eban Prosperas, trying to name this character, I was looking up famous merchants, famous explorers and merchants. And, you got like Marco Polo. And it's like, well, I don't really want to base it off Marco Polo. And I found another character, and the name Eban, I learned, means son of. So this idea of Eban Prosperas, it basically means son of prosperity or son of the coin or son of riches. That's what this character was supposed to be. And, in his bio, we talk about that he was one of the investors basically for the voyage of the Golden Guild that discovered Mythos. So as such, he's one of the first people to be informed about the discovery of new Mythos, and seeing that opportunity, he absolutely jumps on to that opportunity and travels to New Mythos and sets himself up in a position of power. So as you can imagine, he makes himself some enemies both in New Mythos and back home because he's grabbed that power.
What at what point in the process of character design do you start working on like the etymology like that, where you're researching languages and to work on names? I think that's kind of an, because names are always brought up in Mythic Legions, as you know, and I know a lot of it is so carefully finding root words and origin words in other languages to make it make sense within the lore. When does that actually happen?
As we're looking at the character designs, that rough layout for the character designs, you know what? Hold on a minute. Let me see something real quick. This is something I never actually show, but it'd actually be pretty cool if I could find it.
Oh, look at that. G-Con 2026. Yeah, click that one.
Oh, geez. I was like, what? Let's see if this is something I can show. Is it that one or this one?
What is it, Rufus?
Yeah, I can show this, right? It's nothing.
I think you'll have some multiple hundred of people tell you if you shouldn't have shared it in the comments once you share it. You'll know pretty quickly.
Okay. So I'll give you an example here. This is not something we show. This is what I was talking about. This is the wave lineup that we did, that we should, Eric and I were looking at before he does all of the sculptures. So you can see that he's just like putting things together here. One notable thing is Mobu has a sitar.
Yeah, I was like, where's that?
It's just, these are early ideas where we're working through these characters. And early on, we were talking about the idea of him having an almost like bard-like quality to him. And then he eventually became the master fisher, and having a sitar didn't make a lot of sense. But, like that head that's on the, the mermaid here, that's Koi's head, because at this point we had Koi. The imp is fully done because at this point he had already sculpted the imp. We sculpted the imp. He sculpted the imp during the Horror of Einsamal wave. The claws on Bulwark are the claws from Asphyxian. So these are times, and I know you want to see the walrus. So that's that's the walrus just super, super roughed out, like I said.
Yeah.
But this is where we start. And once we do this, we start saying like, okay, we talk through everything. We have these discussions about the character types. Eric goes off to finish sculpting, and I start thinking about story and names and bios and everything like that. And then once I flesh all that out and I do all my research, I send Eric my thoughts. There's a lot of times where something won't work, like naming wise, and we'll get on a phone call together and we will start, going through that name, going through all those names and finding a solution instead for it. So there's your answer to your question.
I think that's cool. It looks like a lot of people in the chat like that, because that's one of the things that is unique about what you guys do is you are also creating new IP all the time. Like you're creating new things, and that's not, forget toy companies, that's not what most brands of entertainment period are doing. They're just retelling someone else's thing. And so to see like that process doesn't happen everywhere anymore. So I appreciate it.
It's cool. I mean, that's a really exciting phase in the process, because, we're sitting there and everything is so malleable at that point. Like at that point, nothing's locked in, nothing is set in stone. And we can shape this. And this is an example where, other than the loss of the sitar, really what you saw there is that's why I looked at it. I said, like, there's nothing in here that I know we're like definitely, because sometimes like with the imp was in the original lineup for Einsamal, and it ended up getting dropped and moved here. So sometimes I couldn't show that because there is something I know is coming down the road. But this is one that we went from idea to final wave like pretty seamlessly.
That's cool.
And what we're seeing here, I mean, this is the alternate look for Eban Prosperas. When Joe sent me this, I mean, it felt like another figure. Joe wished that this figure by itself was released more as like a builder, so he could just go like ham on the parts and everything. It's such a good combination of pieces that, because he's so like enveloped in those soft goods, when you take them off, you really reveal another character underneath.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, a demonstration of things that are above and beyond, right? And I understand both sides of the economics here. It's a positive thing for us that we get a full separate character under the thing. It's also a positive thing that hopefully people buy more than one. So there is, it's reciprocal. It's a reciprocal relationship. Sure. But you could have accomplished the same thing and not had that thing be fully painted and detailed. That very easily could have been done. And so it's remarkable that it is all the detail that is on what's underneath, anything that a lot of people may never look at. They may never take the robes off. It's appreciated, and it does. It feels like, it does not feel like this is him with his helmet on. It feels like this is his squad that is taking care of him.
And that's what it was meant to be. As soon as Joe got this character, he messaged me and he was like, I need to know more about Eban Prosperas and who these other characters are. And, we kind of decided that, these are his henchmen. I don't want to say like his army or whatever, because this is not a character that I imagine would have a military force, but he's running a business. So he has people that have to do whatever deeds have to be done. So henchmen felt more appropriate than like a soldier army type character.
Yeah. The unknown lands of mythos, organized crime boss.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm just an ambassador. No conflict here. And then these two guys come and take you and throw you out.
So full loadout here, we see that Cutlass in this figure. We're going to see it again down the road. We get that alternate head that we just looked at that we first saw in the Ensemble wave with Halvard. And then we get that brand new bird. So it's got the bird head that we first got on the Valak figure, but that brand new bird body that Eric sculpted, that's a separate bird piece. So it doesn't have to live on that like wrist cuff that we got with Valak and Dubon.
And it wasn't in this one, but at some point y'all did tease a little bit that you're working on new figure stands. I think somebody had asked that question.
Yep.
I did multiple places that was referenced, because during our RPG session, there was talk about stands that will fit within the grid systems and various things. So I just, a nice stand here for the bird that, so some of those actual accoutrements, not just the character's accoutrement, but for us are coming too, which is nice.
Absolutely. So moving on, we were talking about the imp a little bit. As I said, a minute ago and during the reveal special, this was a character. This was the first imp scale Eric sculpted, and it did not fit the horror of Einsamal wave. Like there was a point that this character, whose name was still Zinjar, there was a point that he was in the Einsamal story. Like he was going to be a spy that was working with the Tundra Orc. And, kind of that role ended up getting dumped. And then we kind of had the little Tundra Goblin that got to be his little sidekick in the story. But at one point it was the imp. And when we looked at it, it just had such a different feel for everything else. And as I said in the live stream, we knew that this wave was going to be more exotic with ports of mythos and everything. Mm-hmm. So he ended up just logically getting bumped to this wave. And I think that's great. The idea of this small scale imp was something that's been on the plans for a while. So to be able to finally get it is, kind of that finally that realization in the line. And I think he's a great little update. We got a lot of similar feels to Malfar. He even comes with the Malfar head, but another example of pushing that, I think, a little bit further. You can see that dramatically, and I think the wings, for instance.
Was he still going to look like this in that wave, or was he going to be more northern?
No, this was the sculpture Eric did.
Wow.
Like that's why, when Eric started sculpting, this was the kind of imp he was imagining. And that's why when it got done, he was just like, this doesn't look like a character that would be in Einsamal.
Yeah.
And that's why the decision was made that, we don't have to put him in the horror of Einsamal wave. We can hold him off for the next one.
Was he the first? So was the imp scale for the imp? Like a lot of things, and then other things use that body after, but because of logistics, things move around sometimes.
That's why we called it imp scale. We called it imp. Eric and I had been calling it imp scale for so long, and he started with the imp, and that's why it was funny to us that we revealed imp scale and didn't include an imp, and people pointed it out. They were like,
"Why wasn't it called gnome scale?"
Why is there no imp and imp scale? And we knew that it's just the way things worked. He got bumped to this wave here.
This is one, it looks super cool in person. And you guys revealed the 1-to-1 of that, which was
the life size.
Yeah. I want to purchase that. A lot of those things are incredible, but impractical. That guy I can see in my house. You can see in my house. You know where he can live.
I could see him in your house for sure.
He's so cool. He's so cool. And like all of this, the accessories, the gold, he has his own story. Like he could have his own book. Just what is he up to?
And I love the fact, like Eric mentioned, that like those beads that he's wearing around his neck, obviously they come off. You can lay those on top of the treasure chest if you want to add that pop of color. He's got the chalice and everything. Those coins are a separate insert piece, so you can pull those out and you would have an empty treasure chest. So there's a lot of like display options and playability, I would say, with that accessory. including, Eric imagines him, the life size that we had at the show was on a barrel, but Eric very much imagines the imp like kind of crouching down on top of that treasure chest, almost like guarding it. And I think that alone is going to be a very cool looking display.
Oh, I look very much to Trevor. I'm just going to call out Trevor because he's the one to do it. Having a picture once Beathir and this imp are both out of him sneaking in to take treasure from Beathir's hoard. I know Trevor will be able to kill something like that.
Yes.
Because that's, I mean, little guys like this are such an important part to a fantasy story because they're annoying to characters and they get in the way, but they tend to set off important events too with some of their actions. So that's cool to see. Very cool guy. I like that pitchfork too. That's really nice.
Yeah. Trevor's actually in the chat and he says, I wanted to have him on the chest, but he wasn't cooperating. Yeah. I mean, we've said this so many times, but it bears repeating. What Trevor accomplishes with these prototypes is nothing short of amazing. Like I'm sure that when he got Eban Prosperas, he cried tears of joy because that base body is actual production. So many of these other things that he's dealing with, the big guys especially, they're just a lot of 3D printed parts that are held together in a lot of cases with tension. So that's a challenge. So some of the poses he wants to get prove to be impossible, but it allows, us to hope for the future that once the production in his hand, Trevor can make those visions he had a reality.
That is, I've got a number of Trevor's art right here above where the computer is.
Yeah.
And some of his such iconic photos that people get are with these things that are glued together and strung together. And
without a
doubt,
doubt,
shows his craft is even more impressive than anyone realizes.
Without a doubt. Every once in a while, though, he'll do something like the shot that some of the cosmic shots he did after Cosmic Waves have shipped have been just absolutely, like, the action in those shots has been so good. And there are things that he couldn't have done without the production pieces. Just got, there's too much dynamic going on.
Yeah.
Not a ton to say about the accessory set, but these have proven to be very popular with fans, like we did in the Horror of Einsamal wave, taking that main accessory piece, that main diorama piece, the barrel in that case, and also including it in an accessory set. We did the same thing here with the treasure chest, but we also got some fun stuff, some of which, when we showed this, that harpoon and that fishing spear and that large gorefish had not yet been seen. So those were brand new here. The grappling hook that comes with the captain, that hadn't been seen. In this particular case, we have it attached to, kind of the flail handle. So it's more of a handheld weapon. And those shark jaws, oh my God, I did it again. I said jaws.
Jars.
Like the one word I can't mispronounce tonight, and I mispronounced. The shark jaws. Those are brand new for this set. Those jaws were originally going to be included with actually the walrus. So Eric Miller painted those, and that figure was so loaded that we ended up moving it into this particular set, and I think it added a lot to this little group.
Yeah, it's a cool set of stuff, and that's again the world building and the Dio set that the guys made for the display of this was just incredible. And we do have a number of talented people in the room that have already made boats, like Steph has got, a lot. Brian, a lot of people have had really cool boats and such. Yep. So to have, these are things that don't, there's not a lot of shark jaws, Dio pieces lying around out there in the figure world. So it's cool because if you're going to properly display some of this in a way that you may like to, I think, and if not, then a lot of these pieces come with figures. So they do.
Many of them do, but I mean, especially people that want to do dioramas where they want multiple treasure chests and, lobsters and fish and all these things, even just harpoons, like, that harpoon comes with the pirate captain. If you want multiple harpoons lined up, this is going to be one way that you can start to add to that arsenal.
Is that fish the same one that will go on to the end of the sphere? Yes.
It is. So it's the exact same fish as that comes with the walrus. So like you don't see it as well here. We'll see it probably better when we look at the walrus figure. But the way Eric sculpted it, it not only sits kind of on those back fins in a position like this, but the way there's like a hole, the way the back tail fins go, that you can pop it right onto the harpoon and it will hang there almost like, you just speared it and you just caught it.
Yeah. Like the guy from the first season of Survivor that would use spearfish, that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I like it.
So then we've come up to Captain Iron Skull. And this is one that I imagined when we showed his name, Captain Iron Skull, I imagine some people were expecting a skeleton, which was a fun little diversion to go with this character instead, who we intentionally didn't use the word pirate in the line. I know a lot of people have requested pirates, and we didn't use it in any of the bios or anything like that. Eric has long said that he didn't want to do yo ho ho and a bottle of rum Pirates of the Caribbean style pirates, but I think this character fits that role in Eric's vision. This is, a pirate-ish type character it's not touching on all the tropes. He's got that hook hand there, but not much else. I mean, from a personal standpoint, I'm actually really excited for how different this is. And I didn't have a problem with traditional pirates, but once again, seeing Eric's vision for how this character type lives in the world of Mythos, I heard some people say that, Eric gives us things we want before we know we want them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he's actually creating from certainly inspiration and such, but he's creating. And I agree with that because in my mind, I don't know if this is historically accurate, but fantasy and Mythic Legions is a fantasy world, right? In traditional fantasy, high fantasy or low fantasy, that always feels older than Pirates' Tales, which feel like they exist in our current world just 150 years ago.
Yeah.
Whereas these things feel like 5,000 years ago. And to us, that's the way my brain has always processed. So pirates have always kind of been their own thing because they're just wearing pants and button-up shirts, and not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just kind of a different thing. This does look like what a pillaging, seafaring, I don't follow any of the rules of any of your institutions person would look like in that world without even knowing that's what it would look like, especially with the pants that. Until he said he sculpted them, I couldn't believe they were sculpted pants. This is such a cool figure, and he got great reaction in the room.
I mean, a few points. Someone's asking if the eye patch is removable. It's not. It's part of the sculpture. I mean, those pants almost weren't sculpted. At one point, those pants were going to be soft goods, and it started to feel like too much of a reliance on soft goods. So he pulled it back and he did it sculpted. And he said in the live stream, those new sculpted pants are one of his favorite, pieces in the line. He really wanted to get those in there. He's very happy it came out, but beyond the pants, those new boots with the Greaves armor, that new loincloth being as just, grungy and disheveled as it is, very similar to like the chainmail on the Poxus armor and stuff. There's so many good pieces, including, that lower arm, hook weapon arm. That right there, the fact that was the one indulgence he had on this for pirates, I think was a good way to go, because being able to get those other weapon accessories on and the extra heads like we're seeing here, I think this adds a lot of fun to the character. And pointed out those tattoos. The fact that Sherry freehanded all those tattoos is
crazy.
Insane.
Crazy. This guy, of all the figures, at least in the recent, maybe in the line's history, that dictates buying more than one, most of the time it's because you can create a very, very different look.
Mm-hmm.
And so thus, like Prosperas, okay, they're kind of two different things. So you need multiple. This is, oh my goodness, how do I pick between the 3 different ways you can display his face and the different ports of his arm? I just need multiple of him, very clearly him, that the way he's fighting, because this mask is so good. The different hook pieces, it's fun. You can just see him. He's frustrated in a fight and he unhooks this thing. All right, fine. Now you get the flail that's coming at you.
No,
love that. Love
for
it
sure.
So much.
Alex pointed out that the joints are very, visible on here. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's going to be exciting when we see the prototypes of these, because the joints on these, because they are all, printed, we can't get the kind of adherence and connection tightness that we're going to get with the final plastics. I think that when we see the final figures, how those joints actually look, it's going to be so much cooler. And I mean, I think these look great, but I think those are going to look even better when those new 3.0 bodies actually get into hand.
Yeah.
And then we got this crazy piece here. We've got this like fish skull mask.
Wow.
This is an example. I mean, Eric does this frequently where he just starts designing and he adds something in that's just so unexpected and creative, and it just comes out of his head. I'd love to see a fish skull mask on this guy, and it adds a completely different look. Trevor, the fact that Trevor selected that, all I told Trevor was, I want to see a photo with each of the different heads, 3 heads, and each of the different hand attachments. And his choice to pair these 2 together in this way, I think, was perfect.
Yeah. I mean, this is wild. Like, it's so good. It's so good. And one of the things I asked Eric this year during the sculpting session, because what I think everyone is amazed how he'll sit there and have an ongoing conversation with you about basically anything while he's just kind of continuing along.
Yep.
And so I said, is this what is your, when you're working, like working, what is it like? Because you and I have talked, and when you're working, you need silence. You're not I'm not going to be able to text you. Like, you need silence. And he said, oh no, I like binge watch TV and have things on I like, or listen to music. And it's like, it's just fascinating to hear how his brain works. And so then when we see some of these, it makes me go, oh, I bet when he was sculpting this, like, he just needed another episode and another episode. Like, he was hooked on the show. So he just kept sculpting. Add something else.
Yeah, I mean, he could have stopped at, the one hand. He could have just done a second. I mean, the fact that he just kept going and adding new stuff. I mean, he did other attachments as well. It's he just keeps going with it.
Yeah.
And he just keeps going. And I mean, this great loadout on this figure. The 2 different heads plus the mask. I mean, a lot of cool options for this figure here, and just a bunch of cool parts for people that are literally looking to just break these things apart as extras and use them in their fodder bins. This thing has got a wealth of new stuff.
Somebody's going to turn that arm port into a head, and then it's going to be on. Like, that's just going to be a thing that happens at some point.
Zool, the question about if the bracer and hook part's a separate piece, you know what? I don't actually know. I think it's just a lower arm that plugs in the way that the gauntlets work or whatever. But once we have, the hook's detachable, of course, because you got to put the other attachments in. But once we do the pop and swap show with Joe, that's a mouthful. we'll be able to go through all of that, and Joe can tell us more about how all of these things are built. So then this is one that I didn't expect was going to be on most people's bingo card. I literally use that exact language. I thought this would be a surprise. And then I was surprised to see multiple people suggesting that merfolk were going to be included in the wave. Was this a surprise to you to see this figure pop up?
Not on my bingo card. And in fact, I probably hadn't even, I don't think I'd even considered merfolk being in this world at all. Because I think my mind doesn't even know where merfolk are. Where do they come from? Where's our lore from them come from? So I was very surprised.
Yeah.
Pleasantly surprised, especially I like all the fish parts. I don't know what I don't really know how to describe that. The gills, which takes, a part that was needed in the last year's reveal and really transform it into something else. I was surprised by this. I was very much.
And she didn't really start that way. Like Eric wanted to do more fish characters because he had already done koi. So for those that don't know, that didn't hear me talk about this weekend, koi was actually done literally right after LegionsCon last year. Like Eric left LegionsCon so excited and so enthused, and we knew we were going to do this wave. We knew it was going to be a nautical themed wave. So he was immediately like, I'm doing a fish. I want to do a fish lady. Like that's what I want to do a fish character. That was koi. So that was literally like last December. And because we had to get it to the factory so they could produce it so we could have it at the show. But when we started talking about this wave, he wanted to do more fish characters. And we had a list of different kind of fish because we had already done a koi fish. So we had a list of different fish that we could draw from. And then he said, you know what? I want it to be a female. I think I need another female in the wave. I want to do a female fish. So immediately I started thinking, okay, a mermaid would be cool. It's not a fish per se, but she kind of became this character just through conversation. And I remember when we did Basilia, a lot of people were bummed that Basilia didn't come with a pair of legs, but Basilia being such an important named character, it felt inappropriate for that character. But for this one, it was appropriate, so much so that, I wrote into the bio that merfolk in our lore can actually transform their bodies. So she's the chief engineer of the Ocean's Lure, and I imagine her when she's inspecting the underside of the ship, she's got her, fully aquatic form and she's swimming under the waves. But when she gets up on deck, she can literally like transform her lower half into those legs so she can be on, dry surfaces. Just that kind of different approach to merfolk, I think, was a really interesting way to work this character and her extra parts into the lore.
Yeah, get things out that people want to use with the other legs. I think I agree with that. That back tail piece is so pretty.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's a good, and for those people that may not have heard the the live stream, that curved part, because right now this is made so she can be on a flat surface. That curved part, those segments are removable, and there are corresponding straight segments. So if you wanted to do your traditional like long mermaid tail, the tail's going to be bendy at the bottom. You will have the option to do that as well. So you'll be able to get the curved tail, the straight tail, or the set of legs.
Do you think, if you remember, was it Stiltman? There's the Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure recently, and there were people that would just keep getting the legs. And I think somebody got it to like 25 feet. I wonder who will be that buys enough of these to have, because you could just keep, if you had enough, you could just keep plugging the segments in, and someone will do it. Someone will do it. I have another question. So thinking about Eric sculpting Koi
Mhm.
last year in December, right after you said on the live stream that we set sail, and then he's inspired and so forth and so on. So the thing you said, and obviously we're jumping ahead about many days,
Mhm.
but you said something along the lines of there's room at our table for everyone or something like that. Does that mean right now that Eric is sculpting like Meemaw cooking chicken and dumplings because there's room at the table for dinner?
So let's give some context here. At LegionsCon, and I'll bring this down for a second. At LegionsCon, for the last few years, the last kind of scheduled part of LegionsCon is a live stream of shooting the shelf that's in the lobby, and I will go on and give a little teaser of something to look forward to. So last year in 2024, I said, join us next year at LegionsCon as we set sail. I set sail for LegionsCon. I forget exactly how I said it, but set sail was the key part. And I knew because this was the theme of the wave we were going to do. So this year, I announced that, we've signed a 3-year contract with the hotel for LegionsCon. And by the way, we should just warn people that we're going to go beyond 9:00 tonight. We're going to go a little bit later to get through this. So hopefully you've got some time to hang out with us. But this year I announced we've got 3 years at this hotel, and I invited people to join us in 2026. And I said, there's room at our table for everyone. So that was my teaser for this particular year. You asked if Eric is busily sculpting whatever.
Grandmama cooking chicken and dumplings.
I will tell you, next year's LegionsCon figures and everything else that we have planned for this time of the year is ready to go. The armory is still in a little bit of flux, but we've got a theme for it. So
nice.
If you've ever wondered how far in advance we start working on these things, all of that stuff is already well underway.
When you started talking and everyone knew it was the teaser and everybody setting forward, but all the talk is about the Marriott, and I'm like, there's no way we're about to get Figura Obscura JW Marriott. I'm buying it if there is, but that's good fun.
Tiffany, I'll mention the dates for 2026 in a bit. So moving on past Siren, another familiar name. I said earlier that, a new version of Vitus was pretty high on our list right from the get-go. He got added to the wave pretty quickly. Such a popular figure that, we had some parts to update this character because of last year's wave with the Golden Pride of Leandor. But being able to take some of those pieces, add some new pieces to really update that Vitus character, similar to Delfina, I think, where it works as the new version of the character. But if you want this as a fill-in, it works great there as well. Great paint jobs on this by Eric Miller. Were you surprised to see this character make a reappearance in the line, or was this one that you were expecting to see at some point?
Oh, at some point, maybe, but in the wave, big time. I was not expecting that. And then we could all hear Steve exclaim his passion for this. I think when last year, when the new style of body and those guys were shown, it's like, okay, so there's a good chance that will be used to revisit some of those characters that have become so popular in every possible way for the line. But legacies or otherwise, you don't know. I think the thing I was excited about is we're learning characters that are still alive, that haven't fallen, because we don't necessarily know who all has survived, because this is, what did you say, 10 years ish beyond?
Yeah, this is 10 years. This is 10 years after the events of the Second Great War. So if we look at the Rising Suns wave, which we announced at LegionsCon, by the way. Production is complete on that wave. Packaging is being printed. Everything's being boxed. Should be over to the port probably by the end of this month and should be on the way.
So glorious, just January-ish if you're a full horseman. I
mean, stepping back for a second, we just had a flurry of stuff arrive between Ox Crew, the Head Packs, the Jersey Devil, Legacies of Mythos. Like all of that stuff arrived in a very short period of time. The start of 2026 is shaping up like that between Ox Crew Wave 2, Rising Suns, Infinite Legions, and the book. Like all of those are slated for very early 2026 arrival. So I feel like that blast of Legions goodness we just got, we're going to get a repeat of that near the start of the year.
Yes. Yeah. That kept being said. Excited for that. But so like the subtle things in this with the scar and then also it being on the helmet and the story being told and a lot of that. And so I guess my surprise or happiness is that this character survived, a character that's popular. It's fascinating. I don't know, Jeremy, I just keep getting more interest. Like I love the figures when they come out, but there's story elements and lore that become cool too. That, all right, good. We're not done with his story. We get more.
It's nice to know these characters you've met before. I mean, that's why I wanted to introduce them, because we're going into this new section of the world and of the story, and we need characters who are familiar to be there with us to kind of keep us like anchored, I feel.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I imagine this will be a very popular seller.
Without a doubt. And big update on this figure. I remember when Wave 1 came out and it was so popular, but so many people were like, I want to see an unhelmeted Sir Owain, an unhelmeted Sir Galeron, an unhelmeted Vitus. Like they wanted to see what was under these helmets. And it's, back then it wasn't practical to do a lot of unhelmeted heads for some of those characters that were somewhat secondary. But we're starting to get them now. So it was very cool to be able to show this. And I know a bunch of people are saying this looks like Brad Pitt or whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the feel that we're going for here. He's what Brad Pitt, that kind of persona that he had in a movie like Troy. Yeah, that they're cut from the same. They're cut from
the reason he got cast in a role like that.
Yeah, they're cut from the same cloth for sure. Yeah. That's the type of archetype that we're trying to create here. But
beautiful photo too. That's
beautiful photo. And the way it works, when you look at the loadout, is this is another one of the hair pieces. So if you pull the hair piece off, the helmet slides on, which I love because it means, I've done poses with people cradling their helmet under the arm, and the helmet's not actually empty, but it looks fine because you just can't see the neck peg. Yeah. The fact that he can actually hold that empty helmet, I think is really cool. And I mentioned on the live stream that little black, like faceless piece there.
Yeah.
That's an insert to replace the face if you want that fully blacked out look. And this piece, as silly as it is, it made me think, I wonder what customizers are going to do with that. Like, what are they going to do with that just little head insert piece?
What eyes or facial features or anything. Or complete shows up on an elbow or, something somewhere with some of the folks do. They use it some other way. I hope that, it was a very good story you were telling where Delfina sees a person that she knows but hasn't seen in a very long time, and it's him. And I hope that we get to learn more about that, whether in bios or in a future storybook of some sort. But that's, seeing characters, especially older characters, right? When the lore wasn't really what it is now, crossing each other's paths opens up a lot of doors for a lot of interesting things.
Yeah. So I imagined, and we wrote this in the bio, that, Vitus the figure's called Vitus Prime because he's one of the heroes of the Second Great War. And after the war, he's elevated to the role of Strategist Prime of Leander.
Yeah.
So, we looked up different military designations because general is already a very high designation, and that's what we've got for Delfina. We didn't just want to call him General Vitus. So Eric has always said that he takes a lot of inspiration for the army of Leander from, like the Roman Empire. So that was a designation in the Roman Empire, in the Roman military, Strategist Prime. So that's why we gave that to Vitus. And we imagine that after the war, he's disillusioned because, this is a guy who's lost his home of Mercurios. He found purpose in training the armies of Leander, and now after the war is done, he doesn't know what his purpose is anymore. So he steps down from his role and he starts to kind of roam the realm just looking for purpose. It's why Eric gave him that bedroll, in addition to it being a funny joke. Cookie likes to talk about the fact that all figures should come with bedrolls, and they should. So it literally, Eric, it is quite honestly an indulgent piece to tool up for a joke, but Eric thought it was worthwhile. So Vitus gets a really large bedroll.
Well, we get a lot of that in real life and history and stories of the great warrior who doesn't want to have to fight anymore or can't, but then serves as a chief advisor, whatever, and then some final battle has to draw the sword one more time. It's a very favorite thing, right? In stories is that character.
To answer the recent question, this story takes place a few months after the Einsamel story, because there's that earthquake that's in both stories. The earthquake propels Koi's ship over to Eagle's Port. This story takes place only a few months after that first contact at Eagle's Port. But back to Vitus here. Yeah, so he's traveling until he hears about that first contact and this voyage that's going to be sending, representatives from Mythos over to these new continents. And he suddenly finds purpose. He wants to be part of this expedition. He wants to, basically leave and go represent his people and his kingdoms. So I loved this idea that, Delfina, being such a high-ranking member, gets on the ship and she thinks she knows everyone who's there, and she's kind of in, command of the emissaries that are going, the representatives. And when she's told that somebody else is already on the ship, who is it? It's someone who at least ranks as high as she does for him to be able to get on the ship without her having that knowledge. And then we get to introduce, Vitus as this representative. So I love how that all came together, and definitely one of my most anticipated figures in the wave. You look at this loadout with the swords and the scabbards and the extra feet. I mean, this is an absolutely loaded figure for that $42 price point.
Yeah, I mean, and as we know, people will do whatever they need to do to get that style of helmet. So a one that can fit over a helmeted head is going to be very popular, I'm sure, on helmeted head.
Yep. Very good. So moving on, what's next, right?
I do. I'm aware. Yes. The great day.
So you tell us a little bit about,
I can tell you the whole thing.
You were very vocally announcing what you wanted, and we're so spot on. Go ahead. You tell.
So I arrive, and we had listened to the Euro Legions guys and the Enablers talk about the lore and stuff on the way up. So I'd heard quite a bit of speculation of what we think's in the wave, and that's one of everybody's favorite things to do. Is what do you think it's going to be? What do you think it's going to be? It's a great bonding time. So right when you get there, once you get settled in, that's just what people are talking about. And so I was with Noah from the Mythic Enablers and several other folks. And so what do you think? But most people have seen me on this show with you a number of times. due to what my real life is and various other things, like I process information a bit differently than the normal fan. And so I said, well, I think that now I was told Mr. Treadaway said, no, it's not bad being half right, Dub. I said, there's no way there's going to be fish people. That's the first thing I said. I said, I think that's too on the nose. There's not going to be a fish guy. It's just not, it's not what they do. They kind of zig and zag, and that's even been called out by you specifically a few times. I said, so I think koi is going to be some sort of aquatic thing. And of course, all the speculation was you leave the boat, but you can't be too far from the boat. And then none of those people are in the wave. Like none of them are. Like it's not anything about the people that have landed and they have to stay close to the water. They're not even in the wave. So it can be Delfina or whatever. But so I'm like, it's got to be an aquatic person of some sort. And what do we know? Well, we know that Eric likes to sculpt creatures like this from his history. We also know that we got a big old belly recently, but a very odd big old belly that has, it can't just be used on a dwarf as it is because it has this weird cutout for Ganesh's belt. We also know that sometimes things are sculpted for other items, but they show up first in Figura. That's another thing that happens. I said, so I think we're going to get that big belly right away because we got to start paying that tool off. And a fishing belt seems to work. So what do we think it's going to be? Well, he's never sculpted a walrus. He's done other things similar to walrus, but he's never sculpted a walrus. So I was convinced. I said, it's going to be a walrus man. That's what it's going to be. And I thought it was going to be koi. Was going to be the Walrus Man. And thus, I started to try my campaign to convince everyone that it would be Walrus Man, do the Walrus dance. Noah has, since we have had a conversation, realized we've probably been making seal noises more so than walrus noises. So I have great shame. But so the next day, so then the very first thing I do is I go to Eric Miller. I say, Eric, just tell me, how much fun was it to sculpt the Walrus Man that you're going to reveal? And he's like, I have worked so hard to get to where I am. If there was a Walrus Man or any other, I'm not going to tell you, which is the normal thing. I tried to get Trevor to tell me how hard it was to get the prototype. Everybody said the same thing. Like, fine, I don't care. There's going to be a Walrus Man. It's coming. We get to Intern. It's my turn to go to the sculpting session. And usually at Intern, I try to kind of be I know it's surprising to people, but I actually am kind of fly on the wall most of the time at Intern. I try to stay away and let everybody experience it. We sit down, and I know Eric's going to say, what would y'all like? As soon as he got the period on the sentence, I said, Walrus Man, just like the one that's going to be there tomorrow. I want to see a walrus. And he pretty quickly was like, any other suggestions? And so we got porcupine and walrus, porcupine, knight, tentacles were the words he was sculpting. And I did think, because within 30 seconds it looked like a walrus, but it was the back of the head, it wasn't the front, and it made me go, that's interesting that he understands a walrus so well. And he even made the comment, normally I would have a lot of reference photos up, but I have a pretty good idea of what a walrus looks like. And so then I noticed Cornboy had came in for a while. I noticed you came in. I tried to look and see if I could read it, but I didn't really think there was a walrus. I wouldn't have been doing all that if I had known there was a walrus. Like, I don't want to ruin anybody's fun. So then we get back, and your family comes over, and I'm like, now I'm the dog that's trying to find the human that will give it the table food. One of you will. And so I tell your son I'll give him $20 if he tells me the Walrus Man. He said, I'm not going to do that. And I said, I'll give you $200. And I saw his brow furrow. Like, $200 is a lot of money to Jacob. And you heard me. And from some unknown place, I just hear you say, stop badgering my son. I can't see you. And I'm like, oh, I might be close. So then, of course, we come the next day. And I see, Cornboy just starts staring at me. I'm like, oh, what's happening? And then he says under his breath, I think Dub's getting bored. I'm like actively filming things. I'm like, did I do something wrong? And then I went, oh, and he just stares at me. He's got this grin popping up in his face. And the glory of the walrus. And then on top of that, the walrus almost says Dub. He is almost named Dub. It's in the name. I'm like, that's the greatest day of all time. Walrus Man. I know everybody's tired of the Walrus stance, but you got to do the Walrus stance. You got to do it. He's awesome. Look at this guy.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's funny because you mentioned paying off the tooling for that belly. Dude, it's a totally different tool. Like,
no.
I swear to God, it is.
Wow.
Because the one that we did for Ganesh has the ports in the back for his second arms.
Oh, yes, because Noah even says, what are they going to do with all those ports? That's right.
And, when we released Ganesh, people were like, oh, why didn't you give us plugs to put in there like you did with Kragnar? And it was because Eric literally did a completely second body that didn't need plug because it didn't have those parts. So yeah, I mean, this is what the one thing we did save was sculpting time because he just sculpted one set and then did the arms. But yeah, this is, Eric said during the live stream, he's had a Walrus character he's wanted to do forever. The story of you at Intern, hearing Eric tell it is very funny because he says the same thing where he's like, he's sculpting it and he's like, should I make this bad? Like, is it going to be obvious that I know a lot about how to sculpt a walrus as I do this? So that was obviously.
I hear Cornboy say somehow you've gotten access to our Dropbox.
Yeah,
that was funny
for sure.
And Eric came up to me and said, I was going to have to kneecap you if you didn't stop because you were too close to being right. And I was convinced they were testing me and they had told you to see if I would spill secrets. I'm like, I promise. That is not what it was. Poor Eric. I felt bad. Oh, it's great. But this guy rules. He's wonderful.
Yeah. Alec, we're going to reserve those questions on how the articulation works. I'll be frank with you. I haven't handled any of these prototypes. Like, these prototypes are so fragile. Really, no one but Joe handles these. Trevor handled them, of course, for the photos, but Joe is the one who puts these things together. Even the painters handle the parts, but they don't paint them complete. Like, they paint all the parts and then Joe puts them together. So I cannot answer how all of these pieces go together, how they work. That is something that we will talk about once we have Joe on and we do some popping and swapping. I mean, one thing I can tell you is, he's got the two different heads and he's got the different looks for the tusks. So, the look that Eric wanted was that one broken tusk, the asymmetrical type look. But he also knew that people would want the symmetrical look, so he included that second tusk. And then he did the really long tusks for the secondary look here with that helmeted head. But all the tusks work with either one of those heads.
It's I like, and the fish goes on the spear. I like.
Yep.
I mean, there's again a lot of world building stuff here that we're seeing. So the tusks that report in and out, that's cool. So that's going to be a thing people are going to use for different things. And then I'm just going to be a fan of the rather portly gentleman continuing to have some opportunities here.
I love the figure. It's my favorite in the wave. The one thing about this figure that I now cannot is that people said that it looks like he has Steve Bisciotti's arms. And now that is literally all I can see is Steve's absolute trunks of arms on Odin.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's great. And if you put together when you move, and if you've got some curated history of Four Horsemen, you could just have the series of these types of creatures over the years that Eric has sculpted, which I think is cool. Sure. He seemed very proud of this as well.
Yeah, this is Eric's favorite in the wave. This is the one that he was most excited to do. It wasn't the last one he did, but it was the one I know that he was most excited to do, specifically because how long he's wanted to do a walrus type character. This was one early on. It's funny. When we were talking about possibilities, a Walrus Harpooner was on my list, and I didn't even get to present it to Eric as a possibility because he came right into that conversation and said, I want to do a Walrus, which is just another, I've said this many times, it's a joy to work with Eric because we tend to be so much on the same wavelength with so many things, literally to the point where a character suggestion I had on my page was exactly what he already wanted to do. So
that's for sure. And that's real rope. Is this one that has some real rope?
Yeah. Yeah. That's one. Instead of having like a sculpted piece of rope, that's a real, piece of rope that will be here for the figure that you can put around their stomach, kind of their chest.
That's great. I love this guy.
So the last figure that Eric did, and so far the most popular in the wave, has been this absolute beast of a figure. Right from the get-go, Eric also knew he wanted to do a very large crab figure. And ironically, this figure ended up being almost troll scale. But at first, we literally talked about making it a troll. Like this was going to be a troll. And we looked at troll scale versus like slog scale, and it actually worked better at slog scale. Like it felt more dense and it just had a better overall contrast with the rest of the wave. We said during the live stream, he still ended up larger than we expected, but this figure is just Eric like creating creatures and having an absolute blast.
Yeah. This both surprised and didn't surprise. It didn't surprise me to see a crab creature, but even when you put the first picture up, it's like, oh, that thing's cool. But then when it comes out, you're like, oh my goodness, it is humongous compared to, because this picture itself, you look like it's big. It could also be like a brute scale, like
for sure
thing in a photo. But when you see it, and you realize that shell is the size of an actual crab shell, like in real, it's like a 1-to-1 crab shell, and that crab claw, you would be happy if that showed up on your plate at supper. Like that would be okay. He's so big. Yeah, this is such a great. So his parts are compatible with slog.
They are.
Arms and legs are.
The arms and legs are compatible with slog. They'll have the same kind of connectors to plug into slog. So then also, I mean, obviously the body, you could put Slog's pieces, his arms and legs on the crab. So, at this point, there's still a lot that's up in the air because it's still a prototype, but Eric sculpted this to be compatible with Slog. So that's pretty locked in because we want there to be that cross compatibility for future possibilities.
Are you talking yet about if that shell comes off the back, like with back connectors, or is that a...
Yeah, that's an engineering piece to see how it's actually going to affix on, whether it's going to be, I mean, it'll be a separate piece, but is it going to be removable by the customer, or is it going to be adhered, like glued there in some way?
Yeah.
I mean, the weapon too, that anchor that he comes with, it's funny. I don't know how many people saw it, but at Intern, that was hanging in Cameron's office.
I did not see it. I probably filmed it, but I didn't.
Joe actually put it there and hung because we painted two of them, or Cameron painted two of them. So he hung it right next to Cameron's desk, but it's so big that it just looks like a decoration. It looks like Cameron was just into like something nautical, and that was there. But yeah, that was on display in Cameron's office.
So this was the one that was the challenge for Cameron. Is it just the whole thing, or certain elements of it? Or
Cameron said that he did a lot more airbrushing on this figure than he normally does. I mean, you look at this, and this has very organic patterns to it, very organic colors. And to achieve that, he decided to use the airbrush. Obviously, he's used an airbrush before, but that's what he said to me. He said he had to use it a lot more here than he normally does, and it proved to be a challenge. But the end result is stunning.
Are those like torso pincher spikes? Are those just a single sculpt, or is that a ported in item
I think those are all movable pieces. They're
Oh, wow.
they're extra little arms that you'll be able to pose and move.
So it's not impossible that there's some sort of usable joint hole on the torso. So
Yeah.
this is going to create a lot of opportunities for
Yep.
some interesting things too, or even
Interesting.
just not even if you like an LBC, just you want to add things to the crab guy.
Absolutely. Yep.
There was an overwhelming reaction to that, like the size, and of course, you guys are setting up your future every year with Joe's going to do some sort of trick us, like he did with, I think, the bear. He had the trick us, and then you're always going to have the one last thing at the end of the stream. It's like you're doing that to yourselves now. That was fun where he brought the slog out.
Yeah, that's all Joe. That's all Joe.
It's fun. It's fun, especially. It's such a fun and energetic filled day, but it is also multiple hours in a room. So to have things that help bring the energy is good. It's good. Yeah. But it was funny. And then Cornboy just took the slog and threw him on the ground. Get him out of here. Let's see the crab.
So this is the full lineup, seeing it kind of going from that lineup I showed you earlier, which is really the start of the wave. This is, Eric presents that to me, and we look at it together, but he puts that together, and it's always an honor for me to then bookend this. Once Trevor shoots the final figure, I can put this lineup photo together and share that for Eric, because up until Eric doesn't see this lineup all side by side until this photo, because these things don't exist all together in the same room until right about G-Con at that point. Wow. I think Trevor brought back a few of these figures on Wednesday of last week. So they're not all together to see this. So to put together this lineup and really see how the wave lays out, going back to, those original comments that there's a lot of diversity in this wave. And, like I said, everyone's going to have a different favorite in this wave, because I think it does touch on a lot of different character types and design styles.
Yeah, because I would think about myself. The Walrus is my favorite, but the Walrus has a lot of now lore with it for me.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the big crab guy comes out, and you're like, oh, look at that. That is incredible. But then, I go back to the captain. I'm like, that dude is just wicked. Yeah. But then there's this little imp. Like, it really is for a person that is obviously a fan of the line and a fan of the style of item, of lore that this is.
For sure.
All of them are pleasing to me. And it creates such a dynamic thing. And I think only this year, like even in this conversation and then some in Intern, I'm learning the amazement that I have for folks like you and the team that are so creative. Well, like, because Sherry was telling us that she just paints the one piece at a time. Mm-hmm. And only sometimes does she really even see what the finish said. Sometimes if it's something she's really happy with, Joe will bring it to her and show her, hey, this is what you did over the last period of time. So sometimes she doesn't see it till these photos. Oh, and it's amazing to think about folks that are so talented and are creating this whole universe for us, all the way up to Eric, that don't necessarily see the finished product until right about the same time we do.
Sure. It is.
Which I can't even process that to be that type of creative where you can envision it and then move on to your next thing and get there. I think it's cool.
So this wave is available now. Pre-order disc prices, the crab bulwark is $95. Siren is $48. Mobu, Delfina, Vitus, Eban Prosperas, Captain Iron Skull, and Zinjar. Those are all standard figures that will be $42. And Odobin is a brute scale. He is $55. So those are all the pre-order prices. You can get the all-in. The all-in for all of these is $450. The pre-order runs until right after Christmas. That's Sunday after Christmas. It's like the 28th or something like that.
Yep. Yep. I had to look at that because I think like a lot of us, we just walk right out of G-Con into the next, into the excitement. And you're like, oh, I do need to order these things here at some point.
You got a little while.
Yeah.
Did want to bring this one shot up. So the diorama that Dan and Bill worked on, absolutely stunning. This is just a little piece of it. You really can't get the full flavor here because they did the absolutely incredible resin pour that created that look of water that was in this port here. Absolutely stunning photo. We'll share some more photos of that as we go forward, and a lot of people shared it from this weekend. But curious what your thoughts were on that display.
That was awesome. I mean, it's this year I stayed in the whole time. I didn't leave. Like last year, I went out and saw some of the things being set up. So when I got there this year, it was already a madhouse. So it actually was the next day, I think, before I was able to get up to it. But then I spent a lot of time. And then at the end of the show, when it was being taken down, I walked over and kind of looked at it without the glass and just saw the amazing detail and the resin pour and all of that. Really, those guys are not, we see and hear about a lot of the team, but those are some of the folks we don't see and hear about as much. But they are bringing the world of Mythos to life in LegionsCon. They're bringing all these different things that become the coffee shop, so to speak, right? The place where you gather and sit and talk to your friends while you point and look at stuff. And not just this one, but all of the various displays like that were more curated than ever, it felt like, were great. But this was another thing where I'm sure plenty of people are going to say, why don't you sell that and let us buy it? Because the ways that these reveals are being displayed right afterward, are becoming iconic parts of the waves themselves.
Yeah, it was an absolutely incredible. So much to see in it. You just look at it for hours, and some people in the chat are talking about it. I looked at it for hours. To see the level of detail and all the little things that they put in it, it was an absolutely incredible display and a wonderful way to showcase the dawns of Discovery Wave at LegionsCon.
And one of the things that has been created in the last 3 years, especially with the secret figures and so forth, is all of the rampant speculation that comes from whatever may be in a dio or not be in a dio. It's like, oh, well, clearly, there's this because there's this right here, which I enjoy that too. That's part of the fun. So people are looking as close as they can in the resin. What's that down there? What am I seeing?
So going through some other reveals, Cosmics had a quiet year, but we did reveal something fun at LegionsCon or at G-Con that there is going to be a follow-up wave for the Cosmic character packs, while wave 1 was really all repainted existing parts. We're going to do some fun stuff in wave 2 that's going to include brand new parts. And what we showed here was the set that's going to be for the Tusk Science Officer that not only includes the pink repainted versions of the hands and feet we first got with Thygar, but we showed 2 brand new heads. We showed that helmet and that corresponding alien style face, almost like an aquatic alien face. So didn't want Cosmic to get no attention in tonight's reveals or tonight's recap or in the reveals. And this is one of the cool things we got.
Yeah, and I've been impressed with the accessory pack or the character packs that are already out, and I think it was nice that in the showcase or in the figure fair that a lot of that was on display the way like out of the box, so you could see oh, you really can. And so like with the figure like this that a number of people have a lot of, and in some cases are still available at the older builder price point. Like
for sure.
So you can build out some world building with these guys. And in the world of Cosmic, you're going to see a lot of similar suits, just like you do in anything else, but the characters are going to be wild. They're going to be different. So I like that. I like the aliens. I like, again, the Cantina style. Here's all these other folks that have happened to arrive where our whatever protagonist we're following also is.
Mm-hmm.
These have been impressive, and I like the different paints. And yeah, I was glad to see this. I like that helmet that makes sense too with
it's cool.
face.
Yeah. I can't wait to reveal all of these. So this will be early 2026. We'll get a look at all of these. Speaking of getting a look, one thing that we got an amazing look at LegionsCon was the full reveal of the Aether statue from Sideshow. So we announced this last year at LegionsCon. This year they come big. They bring the fully painted Aether statue, which is available for pre-order right now at sideshow.com. And they're bringing prototypes of the other 4, the Necronominus, Poxus, and Alithia. But this figure, I mean, talk about a show-stopping type piece. I know you pre-ordered yours already. What was your impressions of seeing what Sideshow was bringing to the table?
Thrilled with it. And I think the guys that were there made it even better. So I'm a long time, Sideshow and premium format item customer. I mean, right above me, I'm sure is something. But I also know that that's a space that most people can't afford to play in. It's very expensive. Mm-hmm. And often you get, this is my one representation of this item, whatever said item is. And so it's, when you think about the cash side of it, it's like, all right, I want to have a good connection, not just it's cool. Mm-hmm. And having the guys there, which is a big deal. I don't know if people realize they don't even go to San Diego Comic-Con anymore.
No.
Like that is, Sideshow does not go to cons. Mm-hmm. And to have them there, and then I spent extensive time with them, and they're just like they're like the rest of us. Like, in fact, I spent 30 minutes holding a custom figure with one of them, and he's like, "All right, I would like to make my own." We weren't talking about this. We were talking about what the rest of us were talking about. So that helps, right? When you see that they're also Legions people and the fans and seeing their process. But even if they had been like just jerks or not present at all, when you walk up to this thing, it takes your breath away to see how magnificent it really is. And it's different. It's a different thing than what most of what we talk about is. But I mean, immediately pre-ordered it, and I got to figure out where to do it, but I can already see you get each of the 4 on top of the DTOF with their faction underneath them, and what a display that can be. Now, am I frozen? Is Jeremy frozen again? Maybe Jeremy's frozen. Jeremy, can I hear you? Oh, okay. It's coming back. Gotcha. So, well, it's just me now. But, Sideshow, a piece like that, I mean, I think I don't want to say the price. I don't remember exactly what it is. But, like, I have a lot of Sideshow and other companies, big turtles that are up there. And I think you can get your best representation, maybe not best, but an iconic representation of an item. But these are also not overwhelmingly big. They did a nice job with the wings being almost in a stalking. I think they talked about that in the reveal. The stalking, like the prey. But the thing that I think is really impressive about this statue is if you look at the base. So if you're a statue person, there he is. He's returned again. Welcome everybody to Dub Conversations.
I am having a heck of a night tonight. I don't know what's going on. Seems like my computer is just literally crashing on me.
It's overwhelmed by the reveals as well, I guess.
Apparently, yeah. Joe Vassapolo says that it's past my bedtime. Yeah. Gotta get to sleep here.
But going into the base, and I hope people took the time to look into it, because the statue is amazing. But look at all the details of these things, all the little Easter eggs that are hidden in that base, and looking at all the other. I spent a lot of time at that table, taking it all in.
I mean, the pieces themselves are stunning. It was really exciting for me because to talk to those 2 guys. I mean, I've worked with Jesse for a year now on this, over a year, And you know, he's a Mythic Legions fan. Mike was a Mythic Legions fan, the two guys that came from Sideshow.
Yep.
You know, Jesse, he's been with Sideshow for 20 years. And you know, it was talking to him on Saturday night, and he was blown away. He said, I've done a lot of cons over the years, he said. And he said, I've never been to a show like this. I've never seen a show like LegionsCon. It's we've heard this before, Dub. You know, you are a longtime con goer. You know, people like Robo and everything, and people that come to this show that go to a lot of shows and they walk away genuinely stunned by what they just saw and experienced at LegionsCon. The Sideshow guys felt the exact same thing. And it was great to be able not only to have them there to introduce this project to our world, but to be able to introduce them to our world as well.
And I for the many people watching and that will watch this, that's a for all of us. Like, we should all feel proud about that. That
for
folks
sure.
that go all over the place, do all see other things, come to our thing, and it is an our thing. It's not just a Jeremy and Joe's thing or a Four Horse. It's an our thing now, right? It's this community is preserved and protected, and people keep feeling welcome from all walks of life, and that's awesome. I mean, these guys, and I had the opportunity. Jesse and Eric were talking, and I walked up and we started talking, and I asked Eric Treadaway very specifically, "Is this the first time that someone else has sculpted your true own IP, a Mythic Legions item?" Mm-hmm. And he sat, and you could tell he was thinking. He's like, "I do think so. This is the first time that he hasn't been the one that sculpted a Mythic Legion," and that's an interesting part of the history too.
The closest thing would be, you know, when Eric was at McFarlane, you know, he designed Mandarin Spawn, he designed Poacher, you know, two well-known old McFarlane figures. They've since done other versions of those characters that other people have sculpted. That would be the closest, but you know, it was as well known as Eric is for some of those early work, nothing like what he's known for with Mythic Legions. And yeah, you're right. For people to be able to sculpt these, it's a new thing for sure. I think it was you that had an idea, a display idea for these. Are you the one that had suggested, because I talked to a lot of people this weekend about these statues, about having a display with like Aether at the top of the display case, and then the Legion of Aether in the case below him. Yeah. I mean, right there, that I was like, oh, that's is cool. A wonderful idea for people thinking, how am I going to work this into my display? That is a wonderful option to put that on top of the case and then fill the rest of the case with the actual Mythic Legions figures that correspond with that faction.
And I looked at them closely, and I have, I have a Hot Toys Hulkbuster right there. That's on top of it has been there for 6 years and has never fallen or anything. That's it. You can do it. If you use DTOFs, these guys can sit on top. They won't fit in a DTOF, but they can live on top of it. And especially if you have your DTOFs elevated, then you just have the Dark Four, lording over your toy room. Just like you see some of the things over Jeremy's shoulder there, like that. It's just going to be, it's a super cool thing. And I know it's expensive. I will encourage people, if you are interested, if you're truly, this is a piece that you need to know you want. It's not an impulse buy. But Sideshow really does have quite good payment plans, flex pay. You can get this where you just pay $30, $40 a month type of thing. And just like what we needed to do with the Dragon in many cases, right? There's options that they have.
For sure.
But the statue world is a different world than the figure world. At some point, they will announce the run of this. There will not be 10,000 of these out in the world. It'll be a small number. So if you know it's a thing you want, just make sure you do, because that's not a thing to buy in the aftermarket, because then a person that's selling it to you has to ship it, and that's a lot of money and insurance. And
without a doubt,
you can trust Sideshow. We know we can trust the Horseman. You can trust Sideshow with these types of things. So I was immediate pre-order, immediate.
And early on in our negotiations with Sideshow, because we're a very different kind of partner for them. because, we're not Star Wars or, Marvel or something like that. Like, these are our own characters and we ship our own products. And right out of the gate, they were like, they asked if we wanted them to do fulfillment or if we wanted to do fulfillment. And we were like, oh my God, we don't want to touch these things.
Yeah, no.
Like, you know how to ship statues. We do not want to get, and they were like, oh, good. That's what we were hoping. They've been wonderful partners to work with. And I mean, it's really reflected on, the end result of these figures. So yeah, super excited to have them there. The hope, if you look at Irithyr, it says that shipping is, I believe, between June and September of next year. Yeah. So Jesse was pretty confident in saying that they should be shipping by next LegionsCon. He thinks
my experience is they're usually pretty reliable with, plus or minus a little bit. That is my experience over and my Sideshow account is probably 12, 13 years old. So that is my experience.
So the hope is that the remaining 3 will be painted and on display. The full 4 will be on display at LegionsCon next year, and Irithyr will be on the way, if not already in hand, for those customers who pre-order them now.
That's awesome.
Lot of fun stuff going on with the role-playing game at LegionsCon this week. There was a lot of gameplay sessions that happened, but from a figure standpoint, what we talked about is our goal with the role-playing game. We dropped that heroic paladin at San Diego, and it was almost like a bit of a diversion because that ultra deluxe figure is not how the game figures are going to be presented. They're actually presented the exact opposite way in a very stripped down format. So, what we showed here, when we're thinking about the game figures, we're thinking about what's going to be palatable for a local gaming shop to put on their pegs. So this is an example of the heroic paladin. Those are not soft goods. Those are brand new sculpted torso and loin pieces. Those are plastic. That's going to help us lower the costs. It's only going to come with that one weapon. We're still figuring out pricing, but our goal on these is to offer them for $29.99, which is, almost Legion Builder price for something that doesn't look anything like a Legion Builder.
Is that that's a retail $29.99 price? So I walk into my friendly local game store, assuming they're following the pricing guidelines, that's what you would expect to see it at.
That's our goal. That's our goal.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. And beyond that, this is what we call the character pack. So the idea here is, okay, you've got that base player figure, the Paladin. He's $29.99. It doesn't come with the things you'd expect from our figures that if you collect, like the extra heads and the extra weapons and all that, making this more of an a la carte style experience at the store level, where this character pack, which our goal is to have those come in at around $14.99, you buy that base figure, and every base figure is going to have a corresponding character pack. Now, these are Legions figures. You can pop these parts and stuff on any of the figures, but design-wise, color-wise, it's made to go with another, one of those player figures. So you can see here how you add that character pack on and you get a new player figure you can play as a cleric.
Yeah, I think this is a good model because it's even though this is very adjacent to most of what we've talked about thus far, it is its own set of customers and product category and store. Sure. You would not see a $50 action figure in any of the game stores here in Atlanta, at least. You just wouldn't see it. That's not a price point that they're going to sell things at. Yeah. You're going to see these types of things because people are. Everyone that's playing the tabletop games are the creative folks like we see exhibiting at Legion. Everybody is. They're doing their own thing. They're making their own character. So you have to be able to do that. They don't necessarily want to play as the guy you've already created for them. You schnock of the dirty. They want to make their own person. So I think this is cool, but I also think if you're a person that's not interested in the RPG, it's also good because that's a new set of monies to help fund new tooling and new parts that are gonna, because it's still all interchangeable. So I like this. It's another version of a Legion Builder type of thing if you needed it. Lots of flexibility on this.
Yeah, for sure. And there's going to be weapons packs. There's going to be head packs. There's going to be soft good upgrade packs. Like this product category is going to allow us to present things in a way that I think is going to make a lot of sense at the retail stores, but also check off a lot of wish list items that Legionnaires have had for years.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
As far as the figures and the gameplay itself, the other thing we talked about at LegionsCon and in the gameplay over the weekend was these are not just a novelty. During the games, we showed it being played on a map with these like little 1-inch squares where you're using minis. And then this idea of this mythic encounter, and Dub, you actually did a play session, the featured session with D Amazing, Pete from My Wife Is Going to Kill Me, my son Jacob, and that was led by Game Master Cameron. I mean, talk about an amazing team of players, but you're playing with the minis, and then when you get to that boss encounter, the map kind of flips over to a 4-inch grid that's going to, be able to house the large figures. And then it's almost like you're zooming in for that boss battle. So these figures are not just, ancillary to the game. They're not just a novelty. There is a play mechanic that you can use in the game itself that was on display this weekend at LegionsCon.
Yeah. And so, this is, if you are a role-playing game person, or you're interested in, even if you watch it, right? That's become very popular. I mean, Critical Role's touring next year and playing basketball arenas to watch people play. This mechanic is very cool because one of the best moments in an encounter or any sort of RPG session that you're invested in is when the game master reveals the thing that whatever that you're going to fight, right? And they've bought some new mini or something really cool. And in this case, it could be a unbelievably customized new bad guy, but it's Kurzog here, which would be cool. You pull out Kurzog. It could also be who knows what that was customized, created by some of the wonderful people in our community. And now you're fighting this brand new thing. I tend to be, I don't want to follow the things on the sheet when I play games like this. Like I want to be very creative. And so I did a thing where I ripped a goblin's head off and so forth and so on. With this, you can do it. You can pop the head off the thing and you have your character holding it. And it just adds that much more to the theater of the mind, right? To just make it that much more memorable. And I admittedly don't know every RPG that is out there that's using a 5e system, but I don't know of any others that are using larger scale figures in the way like this. So I think it's a smart but functional in the world of tabletop gaming way to get the figures involved. I like it.
In the last part we talked about the game is the Kickstarter is scheduled for end of February next year. So we are in the thick of getting ready for that right now. Very exciting to be able to reveal more on that in the lead up to that campaign.
Yes.
Last reveal of LegionsCon, and I mean, this was a big one. This was the next Infinite Legions project. Last year at LegionsCon, we revealed the Infinite Legions concept and the first figure, the Faden from Enel design. And at the time, a lot of people thought, oh, this is going to be the Horsemen working with their friends from the Glyos maker community. And that's certainly going to, happen again. But beyond that, we said, this is going to keep you guessing. We're going to work with some people and some brands and some characters you don't expect. We're going to we're going to have characters that are being realized in toy form for the first time. And that all fits the bill here. This is a character called Archon the Cruel that was created by Joe Manganiello. So, for those who may not know, Joe Manganiello is a famous Hollywood actor, appeared in a number of movies, but also is well known for his passion for role-playing and Dungeons and Dragons. And that's where he created this character, Archon the Cruel. He's adventured with the characters from Critical Role and others. Absolutely amazing to work with Joe on this project and be able to see this character come to life. This is one, Dub, that I think caught a bunch of people by surprise. And I know that when we brought up Joe Manganiello and, a video of him in that room greeting everybody, there were some surprised gasps.
It is by a not insignificant margin my favorite thing right now that's going on. I'm not saying that I like this more than the Walrus, but the all around it is incredible, right? So you get the video from him, and then you see him starting to interact. And this is a person that when they post, it goes to 3, 4, 5 million people instantly, right? You could take the totality of toy YouTube and put it all together, and it's not the level of reach he has. And he's in the comments section, interacting with people. He shared my post, and so you're like, oh, he cares. Like, he legitimately, and I know we had spoken, you said he does care. He's into this thing.
Oh, yeah.
But the comments, I sent to you, where somebody said, something, it could have been a little less expensive if it just had an articulated jaw, which is a thing you've talked about, that Eric wants it, the anatomy changes on a jaw being open.
Yes.
And he's like, no, it wouldn't be as cool. That's unbelievable. But forget that it's a famous person. Yeah. I know there are certain things that the studio will not officially say for various reasons, but I could say I'm a fan. It is a major event in the history of D&D when Archon the Cruel, in the Critical Role session, where Joe cuts his hand off and fuses the hand of Vecna to himself and teleports out and physically leaves Critical Role. He gets up and leaves Critical Role and then creates the Dark Order, which you do allude to a little bit later, that, and so does he, this is hopeful to be more than just one thing, that this is a series of things, but that he has maintained ownership of this, even though this is a in-canon character in Dungeons & Dragons. You can buy an Archon the Cruel campaign right now, if you want to see it represented like this. That's just so cool. It's so cool, and should expand. We should start to understand the word infinite, right? In Infinite Legions, to do in the Nerdverse, this was major. Critical Role comes to the biggest cons in the world and plays. This was major. And not to mention, he's awesome. What an awesome character design.
It's great. So a few things I'll point out. I heard someone this weekend in conversation reference when you're dealing with Joe's people on this. No, Joe, we're dealing with Joe. Literally, the first conversation that Eric and I had with Joe Manganiello, we were nervous because, and I don't even know why, I'm not a big celebrity guy or anything like that. I don't do autographs or anything like that. But when you're getting ready to have that first Zoom meeting with Joe Manganiello, we were kind of nervous. And 2 minutes into the conversation, all of that melted away. It didn't matter that he was, in Hollywood and, Eric was in New Jersey and I was here in Rhode Island. We were geeking out about the possibility of these characters as toys. He is so genuinely cool and passionate about this character that we've worked with him every step of the way, the way, not with his people. It has been so incredibly cool to do that. To answer something you just said, and what I've seen people, we didn't license with Joe, partner with Joe to just do Archon. Right from the get-go, Joe was like, I want the Dark Order. Like, I want Archon and these other characters around Archon. So this is not a one and done. We are going to explore this further. The character designs that he has come up with for Archon, the Cruel, and the Dark Order are amazing. And
folks, if you don't know them,
yeah,
spend 5 minutes and Google them, and you will say, oh yes, we would all like very much for these parts and pieces because they're
awesome.
Fit very clearly into this kind of world, but are not like anything we have either.
And this is a big figure. This is essentially a brute scale figure. It is quite literally head to toe new tooling. You know, here we got the closed mouth. He's also got an open mouth.
So
that tongue comes out, and he's got a breath weapon, which that breath weapon was a direct request by Joe. He wanted to see that breath weapon there. You know, similarly, that cursed hand that he has, that magic effect, it's tough to see here, but it's actually got a skull worked into the motif, which is kind of a nod to Joe's, like, I think it's called Death Rolls. His brand has that skull logo, and we kind of worked that into the magic there. But you can see that decayed kind of arm, and this is the loadout. We've got his iconic axe Fane Eater. We've got the two heads. We've got the decayed hand. Yeah, this is going to go up for pre-order in January. So right after the current pre-order, we're going to come back early in the new year with the Archon, the Cruel. This is a figure that...
Oh, he froze. That he's going to send to Big Dub the prototype. And Joe Manganiello's coming over to my house, and we're going to play Mythic Legions, the role-playing game, one-on-one. That's what he was about to say there when he froze, of course. I don't know. We may have lost. Yeah, it looks like we lost Jeremy again. Joe Vassapolo in the chat says, no, that's not what's going to happen. I would encourage you all. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of lore for this character that you can dive into, including you can see that moment. I think I posted it on my Facebook of where he chooses to do that in Critical Role. But then, like, there's a lot of Wizards of the Coast D&D stuff. So this is an in-canon D&D character that Wizards of the Coast written in. By the way, who Hasbro owns, right? That's most of you, I think, know that. But Joe maintains ownership. So there's a turtle character, there's a lion character, there's a minotaur. I mean, and these guys are wicked. And, like, we have versions of those things, not necessarily a turtle, but we want that. We want that character. And I've had a lot of fun going back through and looking at the lore and remember, because some of this happened 10 years ago, and reliving some of those moments. So this is a cool thing. There he is. Dude, I just finished telling him how you were telling me that Joe was coming to my house with the prototype, and he and I were going to play Mythic Legions, the role-playing game.
That sounds like a plan. We're going to try to get through these next few things, Dub, because something is clearly wrong with my computer tonight.
Yep.
But I did say that January will be the pre-order for this, so stay tuned for that. Very excited. Last few things to talk about, you know, and we're very focused on the toys tonight. I'm sure we'll talk down the road more about, you know, some of the non-toy aspects of LegionsCon. I at least wanted to get through all the toy stuff tonight. But for the third year in a row, we did a secret drop at LegionsCon on day one. The first 2 years, Valiant Knight, and then last year with the Ninian Infantry, they were army builder type characters that the first year Valiant had no tie into the wave. Last year was at least from the same time period. But I feel like this is the best one we've done because it's a character that people had already made a connection to through those logs. To get this Navigator Koi, I think, was a pretty special thing. And based on the number of people that walked away with this character from LegionsCon, it seems like he was a very popular choice for this year's special figure.
I think folks, including I know myself, were disappointed that Koi was not revealed. I'm like, well, wait a second. Like I've got, and I think someone even asked in the live chat, will we get Koi? And you said, well, we're certainly going to hear more from Koi down the road. You didn't, or later. We don't know you meant a few hours. So not only if you were disappointed in get Koi, you get him early, and even if you weren't at the show, I'm sure this will be made available in some capacity before this wave of figures is out. So you're going to get him early.
Yeah, this will be available. So we're doing a sale drop this coming Saturday for the Legendary Barbarian. We're also going to throw Jersey Devil and some other figures in there. Koi in the LegionsCon 2025 stuff will not be in there. That will be available sometime in early-ish 2026. So this was not a show exclusive. This was an early drop similar to the Ninian. You will see some of these next year at some shows that we go to. We brought the Ninian to quite a few shows this year, but the bulk of these will be sold online sometime next year, the way the Ninians were as well.
It's that similar, like with okay, yeah, I remember, yeah. And then same thing with the LegionsCon exclusives without the parts, or at some point in the earlier part of next year if it follows pattern.
Yeah, we'll do an in-stock sale early-ish next year that will have Koi. It will have the LegionsCon standard Crossroad figures, the Legacies of Mythos, Scaphoid, and Valgard standard versions, and Figure Obscura Toth, which we'll talk about in a minute, and the Armory experience, the pre-builts. All of that. It'll be a epic, absolutely epic in-stock sale drop. But yeah, this figure, Eric Miller, I saw someone asking who painted this figure. Eric Miller painted this figure. This is a figure that, I mean, Chris always works closely with the factory, but Chris worked so closely with the factory on this one to achieve the final result with some of the transparent parts on this figure that really sell that, that fin-like look, the iridescent paints that are on it. I mean, this is a figure that in hand is an absolute treat. And so much fun to pose.
Yeah, and it's I think a lot of folks were happy. A lot of the lore readings and some of the imagery you used felt Eastern, right? Yeah. And this guy certainly feels much more Eastern inspired in the nature of the armor and even just the design of the fish. The fish itself is Eastern design. It's a lot of fun, and the paint on this and the fin parts really are a step up for that guy. It's remarkable to see as we were getting different types of material bodies, animalistic bodies, the way they're getting used and painted, and something that the studio has forever been good at, but it's really showing up in these with it's not earth tones, it's more exotic colorings and such that really bring it to life. I actually picked up several of these guys, which is not usually a thing I do, but I like it.
It's a great figure. It came out really, really well. I was super excited to be able to reveal this. That was a fun, because I had read my wife all the story and everything, and she texted me during the reveal when we started moving on, and she was like, "Where's Koi?" And I had to remind her and text, "Oh, remember that he's the special drop tomorrow." She had forgotten, and she was waiting for Koi to get shown because she knew what he looked like. I had one here, so she had seen Koi already. But yeah, this was one of the two surprise drops we had this year. So we dropped Koi, and then during the reveals, during the after reveal stuff, I had talked about Figure Obscura, and I said, you think what to expect from Figure Obscura, kind of forget what you think the way it's dropped, the fact that there are repaints that come afterwards. We're trying to tell people that don't expect what we've always done. I can tell you right now that
again.
I know. I think
I can hear you. We can hear you.
Yeah, but it's probably going to crash in a second. Oh, there we go. Didn't crash.
Oh, there you are. You're back. Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say is, we don't have repaints planned right now for like this year's Figura figures. So like the Jersey Devil that we're gonna put back online on this coming Saturday, don't expect a follow-up from that, at least not right away. Maybe down the road, but we're changing things up. And the first thing we changed up was, dropping this figure at LegionsCon. We're so used to that Friday teaser, and then the Saturday morning sale drop. We changed it up this time to get this figure on the table, to get a brand new figure obscura. That was something I don't think anyone saw coming.
No, because it's truly Figura Obscura has become this very unique, but also very predictable. The way it happens, it doesn't happen like this, where it's just it's there.
Yes,
it's always been. It's never been an in-person purchasing experience.
Yes, it hasn't.
It's been something else.
No.
I am is awesome. Like, it's cool, and it sends a new ripple of excitement through the con. But also, there have been several different things where it's like, you will see more of this. And it's like, we only have 3 slots a year. We don't want to only do this and that's it for 5 years. So it opens up the doors for you guys decide that there's certain, it's not the right word, but teams that you want to get finished.
Yeah.
But they don't have to occupy every single Christmas for 9 years. It can be something else. That's cool. I think some eagle-eye people are really paying attention to those feet on that thing.
Yeah.
I think that's an important. Bill's video was fun to watch, as he was almost spot on, but then it was Toth, and he was like, "I'm not sure I know who that is, but I was close to being right."
I haven't even had a chance to watch Bill's video yet. Normally, something that I do the morning of the drop, but I was obviously occupied with Legions.
He thought it was gonna be Horus.
Horus
was his guess. Yeah.
This figure. This is a light new tooling figure, because a lot of the base body was from the previous Egyptian gods, and Alec is asking, can we get a write-up on the website? I literally already have it, Alec. I just haven't had time to post it yet, trying to catch up. I actually took yesterday off. It's the first actual day off I've had in a few months, like full day off. So probably since I got back from my actual vacation a few months ago. So I took yesterday off completely. So I'm catching up today, but I do have that write-up. I'll get it back on the website soon. But yeah, this lightly tooled figure, like Eric was worried that it wasn't enough to release as a normal figura the way that we normally do, that people would be like disappointed it wasn't enough that was new. So it just kind of, as we were talking through doing it, because Eric sculpted all of this shortly after the last Gods of Anubis hit. Like, after that hit, he was like, he loved the idea of going back to it, and this was the next one that he did. As we were thinking of an alternate way to release it, the idea of adding it, we already had planned for Koi, but having the idea to do this as another drop there, that worked really well. So we had this in the works, just didn't know where we were going to drop it, and it slotted nicely into LegionsCon as a special.
Now, you may legitimately not know the answer to this question and say anything is possible, but will we see the surrounding things, like for those of us who have all the pins of Figura, like, and the mug type thing? Is it possible that those could show up, even if they show up at a cash register? This year was noticeable that there was a lot more point of sale, impulsey type things, which I loved. Or is that not going to be part of it when it's a unique drop?
Yeah. So we did not do pins and mugs for Toth, but that doesn't mean we won't do them when we actually put it on for sale online. There's certainly a chance that we could do it.
Yeah. I got it.
And with that, Dub, that's kind of my rundown of the figures at LegionsCon. I'm on like edge right now, worried that I'm going to crash at some point too, which is horrible. That such an important and fun conversation, I'm sitting here on edge that I'm going to just drop off again. And I'm also thankful that it didn't do this the entire time we were doing G-Con, because that would have been disastrous. But any last thoughts on LegionsCon this year? I mean, for me, I will say that it was probably the most meaningful LegionsCon. I really connected with more people this year. I didn't do the LegionsCon, the Legion shop table, and I felt like I had a lot more time to walk around the con and have conversations, and that was super important to me. So I felt like I made stronger connections and conversations than I have in the past. Met some really cool new people, more first timers at this year's LegionsCon than I think I've ever seen before. So those are some of the memorable pieces, along with my family being more involved and so forth, that I'm going to take away with me.
Yeah, there was a feeling of intimacy, while also a very visible, there are more people here than have ever been here before. I think that was nice. It's not the right word, but it's the easiest way to describe it. I worked really hard the first half of the show to get content up and out, and a lot of that still has yet to come out. There'll be a couple more videos to come. But one thing I did differently this year is I made sure I was done by Saturday night. When My Wife Is Going to Kill Me podcast over, I stopped recording. And so that meant Sunday.
Probably a good choice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I probably would have earlier, except that Pete had very specifically asked me to be there to capture that really nice moment. And of course, other things that's pretty impossible to say what's going on in the room. But so then Sunday I was done. I wasn't filming. I did take some pictures for some of the smaller toy companies to help spread their word. But I had many 20, 30-minute conversations with folks that I had never met before, which usually I can't do because I'm running around. And it was really meaningful to me. And that's how I was talking earlier when you had dropped off about at least 4 continents. I think it's now definitely 5 continents were there.
Crazy.
And potentially somebody said they thought they met someone from Egypt, which would be 6 continents at what is still, even though that show is full and all that, it's a little show compared to the world of shows. It is not a 200,000 attendee thing, but to see that level of diversity and have all these intimate conversations with people with different accents from all over the world, and I love watching this and all these things. It's just nothing like it. There just really is nothing like it. And like I said in a post, and I'll say to you here in person, yourself and Joe and all of the people at the Horsemen and all the sweet ladies at Viteri Productions that have to deal with us trying to get our exclusives and get our badges. You should all be very proud of.
Thank you.
Forget all the stuff we looked at today, that you are. I mean, one of our friends, our dear friends, all of us friends, lost his father while at the show this weekend. I literally just happened to be walking up and thought I was going to take a picture with him, and he had just got this terrible news, and we were able to be there and in whatever way give love, and to see a person that we all care about post very publicly that this event happened. And thank goodness I was at LegionsCon. You just think about that statement. Thank goodness I was at an action figure convention.
Yeah, that's insane.
Because that could carry me through a challenging time. That's something to be very proud of. It's just something to be very proud of. Yeah,
it's incredible. The amount of people that I was able to talk to that, and this happens every year, but it's never not impactful when they share their personal connections and what this line, what this company, what this show means to them. I've said before that, we're so fortunate to be able to be in the position to do what we do and to bring a little bit of joy into people's lives for this weekend, for this week. And I found myself on Sunday just kind of looking around and, at night and realizing that it was over. And it's been the last few weeks have been so crazy in the built up to the show that there's almost a sense of like, I don't know what to do with myself right now. Sure. So absolutely incredible to close it out. Thank you to yourself and everyone, who came to the show and made it a part of their weekend. And I said earlier, I was bringing up my phone so I can get the dates right. Super exciting. Every year at the end of the show, we announce that, hey, we're going to be back at the Hanover Marriott next year. We signed a 3-year contract. So we're going to be back there November 6th through 8th next year. And then we've even announced the dates for 2027 and 2028. With so many shows and so much uncertainty about will they be back, will they not be back, are they moving somewhere else, to kind of put our stake in the ground and say, we're not going anywhere. We're committed to the Hanover Marriott. They love us there. All of our attendees have nothing but great things to say about the venue. So I'm really excited for the future of LegionsCon and the future of this community.
Yeah. And I that location, that place, you think back about Thor and Asgard, Odin. Asgard is not a place, it's a people, right? Mm-hmm. But that place has become like such a meaningful thing. You walk in those doors, you see these sites, and if for some reason they ever decide that the pub is now going to be an Italian restaurant, you're going to see that community create that pub in so many different tribute things and t-shirts, and it's going to become its own iconic thing because of what it means. So I was overwhelmed with the amount of people that I talked to, and I talked to a lot. It's great. I'm looking forward. I already put on my calendar for the Wednesdays after those dates to be able to relive it again with you for the next 3 years as well, because it's one of my favorite things too, because we don't get to see each other basically the whole time at Legion.
I know.
We're going to fix that.
We are. So looking forward, next week, there will be no Mythic Conversations. And that's because I made a mistake. So Legions Ladies asked me to be on their show next week. Legions Ladies broadcasts on Thursday nights. Well, I'm going to be with you next Thursday night because I'm flying down to your neck of the woods to attend Retro Toy Con. So for the first time ever, Mythic Conversations is being preempted. I will be on Wednesday night, but I'm actually going to be on Legions Ladies. So Legions Ladies are going to take my Wednesday night time slot, and I'm going to go and be on their show. So that's going to be a fun little change for next week. A
fitting one to get the preempted. That's
absolutely
fitting.
Absolutely. So you don't have to go without a Mythic Conversation next week. It's just going to be on a different channel. It's going to be on Legions Ladies. So definitely follow them on YouTube. And then, as we just said, the next day, I'll be flying down to meet you. We're going to go to Retro Toy Con. We're going to spend a weekend together.
Yes.
And I'm probably going to buy some.
Yes. I say, if it'll be Dub Life in 2 weeks from Sunday. If you enjoy the random clips when Jeremy and I are together, where I'm like, okay, here's this whatever, and then it's Jeremy holding some large item that he's just purchased in Glee. It's gonna be a whole episode of that,
whole weekend of that,
and probably not much Four Horsemen stuff. It's just gonna be fun.
We'll see that
hanging out as friends, so we're gonna have a good time.
Excellent. Other than that, the notice that went out today, this coming Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern time, we're going to have a sale drop at Store Horseman. Everyone who's been waiting for that legendary barbarian, literally this coming weekend, 4 Horsemen are going to be at Designer Con in Vegas. That is our last date on the calendar, which means the show schedule is over. We said that we were going to get through our show schedule, and at the end of the year, we would put the remaining barbarians, which was our touring figure, online. That is this Saturday. It's limited to 3 per person for the first 24 hours. If any remain after that, we'll lift the limits. We're also going to add a bunch of figures. I think it's Jersey Devil, Monkey King, Mask of the Red Death, Ganesha, Jacob Marley, Father Christmas, and Ghost of Christmas Past. All of those. Nice. Yeah, all of those will be up. And the ones that we're not adding, just so you know, they're sold out. Like we sold out of the Gods of Egypt. The Toth definitely helped sell out the few Anubis and Bastet we had. We're sold out of Frankenstein. We're long sold out of Krampus and of Headless Horseman. Those are all gone from Four Horsemen Studios. We don't have any more. And these remaining ones, they're on their way to that designation as well. So if you missed out on any of those figuras, Saturday's your chance to pick them up.
And, you might need the rest of those Christmas ones. You never know what could be coming right around the corner. You never know.
Dub, thank you very much for joining me this evening. Everybody, thank you very much for spending a little bit of time with me. For everyone that we saw at LegionsCon this past weekend, it was our absolute pleasure, both Joe Viteri and myself and everyone from Four Horsemen Studios, to spend some time with you. We're going to say goodnight. Stay tuned, LegionsCon.com, for more information about when tickets and rooms will go up for sale next year. Otherwise, good night, everyone. I'm going to turn this fun music on right now. Dub, stick around and we'll say good night.
Yep. Bye, everybody.